Local Government Municipal Structures Act, Act 117 of 1998, at a council meeting of the 21/2026 term of the Garden Route District Municipality will be held at the C.A. Robertson Council Chambers and via Zoom on Tuesday, the 26th of April, 2022 at 11 o'clock to consider the items as set out in the agenda. I will just give councillors and officials a second just to settle. There's still a lot of movement. Everybody got a seat?
Madam Speaker, may I ask a question while you waiting for us to
yes,
settle?
yes, Maya.
Who was C.A. Robertson?
I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue. Maybe you can Google it quickly. Dankie, Russell. The Fries has got the answer. Okay, Maya, there you've got your answer.
We can, as the ANC would like to change the name.
Ai, en as sien jy Meyer, jy het nou weer 'n debate, another debate you've opened up now. So thank you, councillors. Welcome once again. We are at point number 2, silent prayer or meditation. Thank you, councillors. Attendance of members. I will ask Rihanna to please guide us in that one. Councillor De Vries, we know you're present.
Good morning, Speaker, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and all councillors and officials present. Speaker, I can confirm that for your council meeting dated the 26th of April, you have the following councillors in attendance: Councillor Swart, yourself, Councillor Meyering, Councillor Wigbaard, Alderman Boyson, Councillor Malloy, Alderman de Blanche, Councillor Lichaba, Councillor Gungubele, Alderman De Vries. Via Zoom, we have Councillor Skeepers,
Councillor Skeepers.
I'm here, Speaker.
Can we see you, please, councillor? Proceed. Thank you. Councillor, so are you on Galaxy A71?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Is that from our side?
yes, we can.
Please just put there, Councillor Skeepers. Thank you.
Then we have Alderman Dragoner, Councillor Seti, Councillor Ndai. We have present via Zoom, Councillor Hector,
Councillor Hector. Proceed, Rihanna.
then we have
Thank you,
Alderman.
Councillor. See you. Thank you.
Then we have Alderman Kritzinger, Councillor Cronje, Councillor Toto, Alderman Gerke, Councillor van Noordwijk, Councillor Taute. Via Zoom, we have Councillor Steenkamp,
Let's. Where are you? You may proceed.
then we have Councillor Matika, Councillor Mkontu, Councillor Kahnemeyer, Councillor Barker, Alderlady Reiters, Councillor Lambertini, Councillor Van Rooyen.
Thank you. Did you mention Councillor Strubel? You've just entered the council chamber.
and then Councillor Struwel.
And then we are waiting for Councillor Letts, Aleta. I see your hand. You may proceed.
I'm just saying I'm here, Speaker.
Thank you. And we want to see your face as well.
Hold on, let me just do the video. Can you see me? There I am.
Yeah. Bye, Danke. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Speaker, in terms of the attendance of your councillors, those are everybody's speaker.
Thank you. Then I've received apologies from the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Van Niekerk, as well as Councillor Akker, as well as Councillor Chengwa. That's the only ones that I've received apologies for. Thank you, councillors. So we will proceed now. There are no councillors absent without leave. Point number 4, noting of the provisions of Schedule 7, Code of Conduct for Councillors. Point number 5, disclosure of interest by councillors and officials. Do we have any disclosures of councillors or officials? None. I also, maybe I've omitted, or maybe I thought the MM will say that Mr. Gerard Otto also is not with us today. May proceed.
Speaker, I just want to inform you for the sake of the minutes that Councillor Cornelius has now also joined the
Thank you.
council chambers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are at point number 6, communications by the Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and a warm good morning to all the councillors, officials, MMU and your team, and those who are online with us this morning. Good morning to everyone and all protocols observed. Madam Speaker, I'd like to make use of this opportunity to say thank you to everybody present, and including those online, for a very fruitful strategic session which we had sometime last week. We had an engagement of 2.5 days. And I must say, Madam Speaker and councillors, that I did learn a few things out of those engagements, but there is still some follow-ups that needs to happen. And I do believe that if we're going to reach consensus on some of the outstanding matters, we would then definitely have a better year going forward. So once again, thank you very much. And we must just speed up with whatever outstanding matters which we have taken note of. And then, Madam Speaker, what is a concern to all of us as leaders in here that we need to bring to the attention of the constituencies which we serve. There's been a request, Madam Speaker, that because of the Western Cape lacking behind in terms of the census that is currently happening, I think the Western Cape on the numerical profile numbers, only 49% of the Western Cape has been covered this far. And that's going to have a huge effect in terms of how government, all of us included, all the spheres, how we would be able to plan if we don't have the right numbers. So the request is that we must please encourage our people and our constituencies that they can actually do this online as well. Stats SA has given the Western Cape an extension because of the fact that it is worrying. What I don't know, Madam Speaker and colleagues, is whether the people who are employed to do the door-to-door, are they missing us or are we missing them? Or we don't know what their challenges might be, but it is a huge concern that we must please make sure that we are counted. It should actually start with us, and we must also ensure that we double check with our families, friends, and relatives on whether they are counted as well. Also, when one of the census people come into our homes, nothing stops us from asking them, have they been to so-and-so, etc., etc. So it is a worrying factor. And then, Madam Speaker and colleagues, I did mention this in the strategic session as well, but I now want to make it formally so that we can have a formal report going forward, in terms of the digital agreement we've signed with the city of Nampa. Our colleagues, with the fourth industrial revolution, these things, everything is just different, but we have signed it. But we've also arranged that we get the originals, councillors. I have signed the original on this side. There is one of the parcels of George. Fortunately, he is going to Boise, is the place name, and it's apparently 40 minutes from Nampa. So you would then take that to the mayor of Nampa. The mayor of Nampa would sign the original, and then it would then be sent this way as well. But colleagues, these things are not as simple as it seems on paper, and when we post these things, there are a lot that needs to happen behind the scenes. Any agreement needs to have province and what is the department, DIRCO, is it DIRCO, Council? Yes, so I have already triggered those channels as well, so that there will be some follow-ups with the Premier and with the relevant ministers or ministries at national level as well, in terms of making this official, because there are sovereign policies and protocols that needs to be followed depending on what sort of arrangements one can come up with in terms of win-win import, exports, partnerships in any form or any kind. Those are the things that are happening. And that is the report, and tricks, that, when we have all our blocks ticked, we have to bring that report back to council. But things are happening and things are looking promising. And I must say, one of the things that made me really jealous is that the city of Nampa they themselves have an arrangement with Amazon. And Amazon, apart from the work opportunities which they've created, which is about 4,000 in the city of Nampa, Amazon, because of that arrangement, and this is where I would really like to zoom in if that is, an opportunity for us as well. As part of their arrangement, Amazon have decided and have embarked on fixing all the roads of Nampa. Apart from the fact that they have created jobs, they're also going to fix all their road challenges. If they need to tar, Amazon will pay for that. It will be tarred. Mr. Daniels, I can't wait to send them to you. If they come here, you'll be the first person I would say, can you speak to these people? Can you do what you did in Nampa? So colleagues, those channels are open to us, but it does not close the doors. And I did mention it even in my opening remarks with the mayor of Nampa, that we are coordinating 7 other local municipalities. So those local municipalities will be brought on board, and depending on what opportunities exist, something they might have a specific interest in certain things, and I'm convinced that whatever the interest will be, one of these municipalities might have that, if not all of the municipalities. But that is something that we will continue to engage on, councillors, and we will take it from there. So the Premier is aware, he's going to trigger the national departments, and then we're going to take it from there. And then just yesterday, colleagues, myself and Councillor Lamborghini, we were invited to a human settlements in Durban. It was in Worcester, and it was hosted by the Provincial Minister for Human Settlements and Infrastructure. That is now his new title. Now, colleagues, in a nutshell, I'm raising this because I know we are the converted. We all understand how human settlements work, but I'm just re-emphasizing this because there are still some questions on what is the district doing within the space of human settlements. Now, colleagues, that has been clarified once and for all. All the mayors were there, or all municipalities were represented, and everybody who deals with human settlements. There should be no more questions when we go back to our B municipalities and our local constituencies on what are we doing within the human settlement space. Colleagues, it is clear we are not taking away what the local municipalities are doing when it comes to RDP, when it comes as the new name is BNG. We are not taking those matters from them. None of the staff in the local municipalities who are dealing with human settlements are going to lose their jobs because we are now in the space. The minister has made it clear for everybody, and everybody was there, got clarity for any unresolved matters or any suspicions. So I'm no longer going to entertain my counterparts in terms of saying that we are playing big brother as the district, or we're overreaching, or we want to annex other municipalities. I'm no longer going to entertain that. That has been sorted out yesterday. So as of now, all we need to do, is we need to be project ready. We need to have our pipeline, our business plans, and everything needs to be in order. But once again, this is an ongoing subject, and it is something that on a daily basis we will have to update council in terms of how far are we with our role within human settlements. Again, the issue of, because now that the minister is now the Minister of Human Settlements as well as Infrastructure, the issue of a Water Services Authority accreditation has also been dealt with in that meeting. And whoever was there now clearly understands why we're doing this and what is the importance of this. And once again, it has also been clarified that we are not going to get involved in reticulation. We are not going to cost local municipalities their own rates and taxes or revenues that they generate out of selling water. That has also been clarified. So we are now going full steam ahead on all of these things that we need to deal with. Then, colleagues, I know that there's an item where we'll be dealing with COVID-19 and the new variants, etc., etc. But because of there's a political discussion and debate at a higher level in terms of now that the lockdown, what's it called? The lockdown levels have been adjusted and we are where we are, but there are still some, COVID is still with us. And there's a debate that through the National Health Insurance, there might be some regulations that will be promulgated that will deal with what is happening currently. But the other debate is all councils must come up. We need to debate this. We need to sit together. All councils in South Africa with what is intended by the National Health Insurance Act or whatever it's called, the NHI, all councils must have policies in place, especially when it comes to mandatory vaccinations. There must be policies regarding that. What is a specific council's stand via a policy on mandatory vaccination? So colleagues, this is something that we need to debate, and this is something that we need to formulate and promulgate a policy for council. I am aware that there are obviously a different takes, you know, like I'm fully vaccinated. There are people who are totally not vaccinated, as an example. And now the question is, how do we deal with that? Because both point of views needs to be taken into account. So please, let's put our heads around that, and we come up with a formulation of a policy regarding that. Then also, I think the might probably touch on it, the latest developments regarding the behind the scenes engagements regarding the regional landfill site. I'm sure you would then give us the latest on that, because we as MACO have been made aware that there's been matters happening behind the scenes. Then also, but I thought I was going to deal with this when we're going to deal with labor matters, etc. There's also something, colleagues, that we need to look into. Remember, we had the debate on skills with employee cost increasing. And then I remember Councillor Luchaba mentioning the fact that we do a skills audit as an example, etc. And we came across a gazette issued by Minister what's his name? Motsoaledi. Yes, he has signed a gazette where he deals with specific skills, you know, probably in a South African context, you know. So I think we need to familiarize ourselves with that gazette. It will probably then also give us some guidance in terms of where do we see ourselves in future and where do we want to position the district regarding this debate of employees with various and different skills. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions, interactions with the mayor?
Yes.
I don't see any hands. Alderman De Vries.
Please. Thank you, Speaker. Just a few remarks on what Executive Mayor said, perhaps maybe just some clarity. I think that on the first one, coming from the straight session, on the issue around consensus and consensus politics, I believe that as the ANC that we committed, we as far as possible that we reach consensus when it comes for us in terms of service delivery and to improve the lives of our people. So at all times, we will strive in terms of from our side to do that. Of course, we will have to agree that there will be areas where we will agree to disagree. And some of those matters might be because of policy matters in terms of where we stand. But even despite that, I think that we might be able to find some common ground. And that consensus also will be in terms of our overall role as councillors, including the role of oversight that we must play. I want to say tongue in the cheek in terms of it's perhaps not surprising the Western Cape that we have a problem with census. If we have a governing party in the province that make people believe that the national government is a total failure, you might have that people don't believe that it's anything for them to actually give the information because they believe that nothing will come from it. But it's a serious challenge for all, especially our local municipalities, including us, because the census will determine in future our equitable share. So if we don't get people to register, so despite what I've said, tongue in the cheek, I think that we must embark in a campaign. I think that I've already seen, if I'm correctly, on our social media platforms, I already saw some of those adverts to encourage people. But I think that we should perhaps as parties and also as councillors and especially in our wards, as we engage our communities, that we actually encourage them to say. Because it's going to have financial impact. Playing politics is not going to assist us in terms of that. So we are in agreement in terms of that. Just a question, I know that we will have a report and eventually see the agreement that was signed. But you haven't, apart from saying it's a disagreement, just very an executive summary what it's about, whether it's 3, 4, 5 sentences. So we just have a sense in terms of what this agreement is about. And from the side of the governing party, we appreciate that we do everything within our international agreements and protocols of our national government. Because we had some problems, not in this municipality, but in others where people believe that they can operate outside of our international agreements. We can't do that. So we appreciate that is being respected. On the issue around the COVID policy, I think that, again, because you alluded to already that apart from personal stance that people have, there's also political differences in terms of how to manage that. So I think that we must do ourselves the favor to give sufficient time to have that debate. That we don't bring a policy as part of a big council agenda and then we think that we're going to have an embarking debate, so that we all understand what is it that we must have. So even if there's already information in terms of what we must develop or how, that be said with councillors, and that we don't wait till we actually have something crafted for ourselves. So the question there is that how urgent is it for us in terms of to make sure that we have that policy in place? And perhaps the last question of clarity on the issue about skills. Now, the minister's name you mentioned, I believe, and under correction, you might correct me, is the Minister of Home Affairs. Now, the Minister of Home Affairs, in terms of the skills part that is involved in, is normally the critical skills that is needed in South Africa, and that determined have to do with work permits, applications, and visas. So I just want to make sure that is that what you're talking about, because the other critical skills are normally identified together with the Minister of Higher Education in terms of that. But the minister specifically, I know that he have something on TV someday, and it was about work permits and visas applications for people. So just if you can clarify that for us, thank you.
Any other questions for the Mayor? Alderman Gericke?
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues, Mayor, MM. I'm going to be very brief. I just want to, in terms of the issue of COVID, Mr. Mayor, this is a very sensitive and complicated matter at the moment, nationwide and even elsewhere in the world, with regard to policy direction and so on. Lots of pressure groups, anti-vaccination groups, and so on. So we must be very politically very sensitive when it comes to the formulation of these policies, because it may affect many lives according to the beliefs of people, their political beliefs and their religious beliefs and so on. I want to ask you if it's possible that you or the administration so long employ some experts to give us some guidance when we will formulate the policy. We have the knowledge, we have the know-how, but even our very own departments can submit, guidelines in terms of policy direction, so that we are not out of touch with what's happening elsewhere in the country and elsewhere in the world. We must understand, as much as there's noises going up on a national level, the one day this minister is saying that and the other day another minister is saying another message, we must understand the constitutional imperatives of the rights of people. This is what it is all about. The right to choose, the right to be vaccinated, the right to not be vaccinated, and so on. Those are the imperatives that we need to take into consideration. I am fully vaccinated, but it does not necessarily mean that I need to enforce my beliefs on somebody else. And those are the sensitivities that we need to take into consideration. And therefore, I am myself open to guidelines that will assist us in terms of the formation of a policy. And when we formulate a policy, Mr. Mayor, that we not be so super holy or hypocritical in order to exclude other people. I know last year there was some noises that said the people, it must be mandatory, and then the discourse in the country shifted and it said, no, you don't need to be mandatory vaccinated and so on. And it shifted all the time. But as we speak, the numbers are climbing. And again, we must apply our minds as to our strategy that we will employ in order to safeguard our employees and our families and the nation which we serve. That is on COVID, Mr. Mayor. In terms of human settlement and water service, I'm going to take it jointly. I am glad that you're giving clarity here this morning in terms of what has transpired yesterday in Worcester and that the minister has given guidelines. I want to make a serious plea. If there are differences in the B municipalities with regard to delegations and the services that they need to render, I want to ask you as the district mayor to fight it out within those 7 municipalities before we come to the public platform, because it's sometimes not good when we fight when there's public spats and so on. Some of these guys, with all due respect, they do not understand their mandates and they do not understand the delegations or the legislation in terms of which they operate, and therefore our services are negatively affected on the ground because they don't know how to work out budgets, they don't know how to allocate, and so on and so on, because of the fact that they are unsure about their mandates and about their delegations. Now, human settlement is a critical component of local government. very critical component. And although the legislation ascribes this role to provincial and to national, I think the step that this government has taken, this district municipality has taken to get involved and roll up sleeves in order to establish and to roll out some of these projects on this level, local level, on the regional level needs to be applauded. But together with that, we need all the support, and we need all the support and the buy-in from your B municipalities, because it's going to be pointless, Mr. MM, and it's going to be useless if we have the mandate to deliver and we end up in hiccups, in controversies with the B municipalities with regard to the release of land and the allocation of land and the establishment of services. It means that although we have the delegation to do that and the authority, if they decide not to give us the relevant release of land or the services, then we may end up in a cul-de-sac. So yeah, this is where we are. It is of critical importance, the establishment of houses, whether it be first houses, gap housing, RDP houses, or whatever, it does not matter. But I'm also going to make a serious plea in terms of the agreement that there is, and we've got to be frank and honest. The agreement that has been approved by this council for the rollout of human settlement is applicable to what you have called at the time the Nice Nut Corridor. Now, I'm calling on you this morning, the PBI is calling on you to say, let us roll it out elsewhere in the district also. Because human settlements are needed just about everywhere in the region at the moment. It is a critical need, and we must roll up our sleeves and see how we can assist our communities also in this regard. I thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke.
Sorry, thank you, Speaker.
Any other questions? Maya?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just getting my bearings right. Madam Speaker, to do justice to the questions raised by Alderman De Vries, let me read exactly what we've signed. And it would then give us an idea in terms of how flexible this is. And I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to go to the key points based on the questions, because it will still come back to council. This agreement will include interaction regarding the following purposes. 1, an agreement for the friendly, equitable, and mutual development of economic and cultural exchange between the two regions. 2, an agreement regarding development of business and trade between the two regions. An agreement with the aim to establish tourism, education, sport, art, as well as any new initiatives that may arise from this opportunity. So it gives us some flexibility if anything new comes up there. They're also going to come with what they would like us to provide for them or to partner with them. If there's anything over and above, then we have room to play around with. That is what it says. And then the other question on the Gazette, you 100%, Alderman De Vries, that the various departments at national government, they all have components of some skills facets. And this one, you're correct, from the Minister of Health. It has got to do what you have raised in terms of the Immigration Act, etc., etc. And the one with Dr. Nzimande, that is then also one I know yourself and Dr. Prinsloo, you guys are engaging on that field as well. So I think when we're going to deal with those reports from the skills MECA issues, that will then also give us then guidance in terms of dealing with that. But you are correct. Each and every department has got these facets within themselves. So we're just going to combine it and see what suits our aims and objectives. Alderman Gericke, once again, I share the sentiments in terms of if there are some best practices out there. Obviously, there will be people or municipalities that might be first out of the blocks. We can learn from that, bring that to us, and then we engage and we deal with that. Also, it slots into what Alderman de Vries were also saying, is that let's have all relevant information at our exposure. We debate that, we engage on that. Only then can we then come up with our own policy. And you are correct, if there are experts in the field or whatever, we'll invite them and say, guys, what can be done about this? And then also, colleagues, with all these new changes, you know, sometimes when people change definitions, Alderman Gericke referred to the gap housing and the FLISP, etc. You know, sometimes when people change definitions or terminologies, I don't know whether that actually brings the actual changes. But the name FLISP will be redefined now with the new minister. It's no longer going to be called FLISP. It's going to be called Buy Me a New Home Project. I don't know whether that would speed up things or make it easier. And on the FLISP issue, colleagues, it was also mentioned yesterday. Some banks are already on board. All the government pension funds and provident funds are on board. So Stockfelds are on board. There's already, but that will also be communicated. There's already role players and stakeholders that has bought in to what we're busy with in terms of middle income housing. So whether you work for government or whether you middle class out of your own doing somewhere else, but you still don't qualify, all angles have been covered, but that will be communicated as we go along. And the Knysna corridor that has been expanded, it is no longer just the Knysna Beta corridor. It has now been expanded to Knysna, Beta, Knysna, George, Mossel Bay, Oudtshoorn. Yes, those are the 5 for now, because these 5 already have restructuring zones being approved and identified. So we're just working around Hessequa now and Kanaland. Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Meyer, while you were talking, I was watching Joel, and it seems as if he's burning to say something. But I really don't want to open this now for a housing debate. So, through you, if you will allow him just to say, if he wants to add.
I'm actually excited. It's actually an affirmation of your strat plan that you've already approved. What the mayor is actually indicating is that this aligns totally to the strategy plan that we have. That is the 5. Because remember, the strat plan originally concentrated on the corridor, areas, which were the 4. We then extended it to Oudtshoorn because Oudtshoorn had actually defined the restructuring zone. So this is an affirmation. I'm actually glad. That's why I'm a bit smiling. It's an affirmation of that.
Thank you very much, Joel. Maya, in short, thank you.
Madam Speaker, just the other critical point raised by Alderman Gericke, the issue of the bees. All the bees agree to this. So I agree with you that if they now disagree with anything, I must take it behind the scenes and at another level. But no one can now say that they're not aware of what is happening. Thank you.
Councillor Chaba.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Mayor, the only thing that it will be very critical that people need to get consumer education about it so that they understand what they are getting themselves into. Usually, most of the time, things are done after or when people have already signed and then people don't understand. So already, let us be forth with the information, take it to the level of the people so that they understand what is it and what they're getting themselves. And then I think there will be a better success when we start from there.
Madam Speaker, I take that to heart. I fully agree.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move on to point number 7, and that is the communications by myself. Colleagues, we had a very successful 3-day strategic plan session last week, as was alluded to by our mayor. However, what was very disappointing to me was that Some of our colleagues either did not attend, nor did they even bother to send an apology. So for me, that is very concerning. I won't mention any names. They know who they are. Then we had a governance meeting on the 11th of April 2022, of which the minutes will be submitted to the next meeting. Then the next point, I must inform Council of a Section 5 notice that I've received from the Office of the MEC for Local Government. That is allegations of maladministration, corruption, fraud, and / or other serious malpractice at the Garden Route District Municipality. So councillors, for now, the only thing that I can say is the letter is in terms of Section 5 of the Western Cape Monitoring and Support of Municipalities Act of 2014, Act 4 of 2014 in brackets, the Western Cape Act. And then he goes further to say, I'm obliged before taking any steps in terms of Section 106 in brackets 1 of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act 2000, again in brackets Act 32 of 2000, the Municipal Systems Act, to inform you of the relevant information which I have received and to afford you an opportunity to provide comment thereon. So it is now upon myself to respond to the MEC about the allegations. What I can say, it's 7 allegations. We have received 15 days to respond. However, I've written to the MEC yesterday to ask for extension in order for my office to collect all the relevant information. I'm not in a position to divulge what the 7 allegations are, but I can say one of them is the gratuity payment that was made to the MM as well as to previous or former political office staff members in the previous term. So I had a meeting with the MM and with some of his senior officials. So the process will be as follows. Between myself and the Office of the MM, you will provide me with all the relevant information as stipulated in the letter, the Section 5 notice of the MEC. And then we will, I'm awaiting on whether the MEC is going to grant myself the extension. But between myself and the MM and the senior officials, we said that within the next week, seeing that this week is a very short week, by next Friday, all the relevant documentation will be at my office. And then a full report will come to council once the minister's investigation is done. Maybe it's not going to be done by our next council meeting, but then I will give a verbal report on the progress as well. So that is all I can say about that. So the investigation is happening. As a responsible person, as the speaker, that's why, according to the law, the letter was sent to me. There was also a copy sent to the mayor as well as to the office of the MM. So it's no secret. Everybody that was supposed to receive the letter did receive it. And then you are all now looking so somber and, but that is it. I will take questions after this. Then we're going to have birthdays in next month. It's going to be Councillor Tauti on the 2nd of May. And then also Councillor Deputy Mayor van Niekerk on the 15th of May. And then, as you all know, Facebook always reminds us in the morning of whose birthday it is. But I was tuned into the Michael in the Meyer het my nou eintlik voorgespring. But it is one of our HOD's birthdays today as well. Trix, congratulations on your birthday. As you normally know, I don't do that regularly because I don't know what the birth dates of our HODs or the MM are. But thank you, for Facebook for reminding us that today when it's our council meeting, it's Trix's birthday. Trix. Baie geluk met jou verjaarsdag en ek hoop jy sal 'n voorspoedige een hê. So councillors, for now, that is all from me. I will allow you now, elder lady. That is all from me. Elder lady. I see Aniwa.
Is where and what is the time with the cake will be served?
Thank you, elder lady. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Lechava.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to ask in terms of, it came to our attention in our caucus that there's going to be some training in Stellenbosch for the winter season. But we have no knowledge.
Madam Speaker,
Your office.
I've noticed your hand. We will come back to you. You may proceed, Councillor.
Okay.
Councillor Skippers, I will come back.
we can't hear the speaker.
Oh, you can't hear me. You, okay. Oh, all right. Okay.
Can you hear now?
Can you hear now, Councillor? Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Thank you,
Okay.
Councillor.
Alright. Okay. So we wanted to know if, because all other municipalities have already given the names and whether for the garden route, if we did receive of such communication, we will appreciate if you can provide for us so that we also are aware who's going to be attending and who's not going to be attending.
Can I quickly answer that one? We did receive an invitation. 8 councillors can go. I believe you've got it open there, but it says that the venue still needs to be confirmed. So we have responded yesterday that my garden route will send 8 councillors as soon as they have provided us with the with where it's going to be, because currently it's an open end, but we will still communicate with the whips in that regard. But 8, we can send 8 councillors.
Okay, thank you for that. The second,
That one, councillor, if I can propose something, councillors, if you can attend as your B municipality, if you are seconded, that will be of great assistance to us here at Garden Road. So please make use of that avenue, because all municipalities have been allocated an amount of people.
all right. Secondly is that in our last council meeting, there was an item that was withdrawn, and yet a decision was taken that in the next council meeting, that item will be tabled. So we do not know, the agenda is silent on that. Yes, you have said and communication, but I do not know whether it resides within this this item that you rather want to, because my point is that we can't be quiet about it because it was a council resolution. Council resolution saying that it will come, then we need to pronounce ourselves now to say what happens then. Because it was a council resolution to come, and then we discuss that matter.
So can you just be more clear, name the...
Yes, there was a withdrawal of the gratuity report. So we said that it will stand in, and in the next this council meeting, that report, it will be tabled. Now the report is not here. And that is why we're asking why the report is not here. Because it's supposed to, as per the council resolution, we all resolved on that.
Thank you.
Why is it not here?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, I think I will get assistance from legal on that one. It came out when I received the letter from the MEC that is part of the investigation. So then I had a discussion with the mayor. I don't know if it's then going to conflict the investigation because there is a lot of information. I don't know if it makes sense, but specifically what we've asked for at the previous council meeting is exactly what is in that investigation from the MEC. So maybe the legal fundis can tell me if I'm correct or if I'm Maya, I see you. So that is the reason from my side why it's not here. Maya, you want to respond, or is the MM, are you going to respond?
It was directly directed at me at that stage, Madam Speaker. So the request was directed at me in council. I am not comfortable dealing with that matter since it's been part of the investigation. So when that has been dealt with as well, because I do not want to incriminate myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gericke.
Yeah, Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let me first and foremost inform you or the House that I may leave this meeting earlier than has been planned because I just an urgent responsibility out of town that I need to attend to. So most probably just after lunchtime, if the meeting is not done as yet. But I just want to elaborate on this point. And you must please bear with me. I'm not going to go into the merits of the case and what you have pronounced. But I do not understand what is happening now. Because in the month of February, it was reported in the financial statements ending June 2021 about this gratuity fund or payouts. Some of the payouts were reported. So then I arose in council and I asked for an explanation on the amount of 400,000 rand that has been paid to certain individuals. Then, as Councillor Lachaba said, the next month we received the names or the titles of the people without the relevant amount because I have submitted to this council to ask for a breakdown of the payouts. So then the item was withdrawn, supported by the Democratic Alliance, with this understanding that by the next council meeting, we will have the figures. Now, let me put it up front, Mr. Mayor, through the speaker. And it's important for the record that I have not asked for an investigation myself. I have not written to anybody to ask for an investigation. I have not asked this council to do an investigation. So therefore, I fail to understand now why we're ending up here with some kind of investigation with a notice from the province. Just bear with me. The responsibility, the delegation is on the council and the speaker in the event that there are some discrepancies, and the delegation is on the administration to investigate in the event that there are some discrepancies. That is in terms of the separation of powers. I do not now understand how the province got on board with an investigation. And I don't want you to give me an answer. I put on record that I don't understand now, because in terms of my understanding, if political office bearers are involved, it is incumbent on the speaker to investigate. This is what the law says. It says nothing else. But in terms of the administration, it's incumbent on the CEO of this municipality to investigate. And in the event that he is implicated or conflicted, he must delegate it or she must delegate it to somebody else that is not conflicted. So I really fail to understand. On the financial statements, Madam Speaker, ending 30 June 2021, the gratuity payout, for instance, of the municipal manager has been declared in the financial statements. And at that time, it was in an open agenda. It was not a confidential agenda. And this amount is 977,000 rand to the effect. It's in the financial statements. And it was in the open agenda. So I would love for somebody to explain to me, how is it that the provincial government or whoever from the province is involved now to investigate, and what is the route that it's going to take? Because if there are some problems or flouting or discrepancies on these payouts, and the process is not dealt with correctly here, then we are heading for a failure. That is the problem, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. I've noticed all the other hands and the mics that are on. Just on a lighter note, Alderman Gericke, I've noticed that you like to put your hands in your pockets when you stand and when you speak. I don't know if you've seen that Facebook thing that goes around about the mayor of Oudtshoorn, that people were now making a huge thing about it. So I was just wondering, I wonder what you will say if people put you also on Facebook. And that's not for discussion, that was just on a lighter note. Thank you. Can all of you just, yeah.
Have you acknowledged us?
I've acknowledged all of you, but let me allow the May I switch off? Thank you, because it's first Councillor Chaba, then Councillor De Vries, then you, and then.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning.
I just want to ask you, and this is respectful, we don't have the detail of what has been sent to you. If the municipal manager is implicated, then you may not ask the municipal manager to respond now. I'm not trying to find a guilty party. I am just saying, no person that is implicated may speak now. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't know what the MM wants to respond on, MM, but I am in agreement with what you are saying, MM.
Thank you, Speaker. Exactly, I wanted to address that point, that I'm not comfortable sitting here with the debate going on. And just to make two corrections, as head of administration, the report was ready and it was only removed after discussions with the Speaker. So the administration did prepare the report as far as I'm concerned. Because of what the Speaker has said, the report was withdrawn. And thirdly, this is for public record because this meeting is being published. In terms of Section 5, the minister must make an assessment of the allegations and determine whether there is a need for an investigation. So I don't want this council to labor under the impression that it is being investigated. The minister must determine if there's a need for an investigation. So I just wanted to clarify that and to say, Speaker, just for the record, I'm not comfortable with the debate and everything that is being said in my presence. Thank you.
Thank you, MM. So are you asking to be excused? Sorry, Maya, what are you saying? Okay. MM.
With your permission, Speaker.
Thank you. You may. We will call you as soon as we are done. Elder lady, you are burning. I will acknowledge you now.
Honorable Speaker, I don't understand what is going. Honorable Speaker, I don't know what is going on here because the question was from Councillor Lechaba, where is the report? There was nothing from the report. She asked only where is the report. Now we debate something, the merits of the report. We busy Daar was so die feit van die saak is die, as daar 106 is van die minister, then we can go investigate, but as the MNC must only assist if there is some trouble here by the Garden municipality. But I'm also not comfortable about the element that we will display.
Thank you, Elder lady. Elder lady, it's not a 106 yet. It's far from a 106. It's a Section 5, as was explained by the MM and as I've read out of the letter that I've received. Councillor Lechaba.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I think you started correctly. The tone. The tone was that legally, what does it mean? I think that is where we lost the thing, because for us, the first thing was to explain to us that Section 5 notice, what does it mean? And number two, going from there, then what does it mean in terms of our internal processes? Because these are two different things. There's an external process of the province, and then there's an internal process that we wanted to deal with an item. So those are two different distinct things because we are different distinct spheres. So from our side, that's why I came with the question to say, we were supposed to have the report. Where is the report? Now the report is that if it's whatever the legally is going to say it's in section 5, means it's an assessment, then we do not see that it has to do with anything for us to proceed with our work. So that's what I'm saying. If your office can just get us that same clarity so that we can proceed with the business of the day. Because for me, I don't think it stops us to do the work that we needed to do.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I allow you, Alderman de Vries and then the Mayor and then Councillor Parker, can legal please assist on that matter? Otherwise, we're going to go in circles and circles. Can we get clarity on that one? Please, Trix, through you to Advocate or Nadima. Will you assist us?
No, I want to talk about process. And I think
Okay.
the two councillors have raised.
Okay.
Issue. Speaker, we should not go into debate. There was a simple question from Councillor Chapter. In terms of a council resolution, they were supposed to report. Your office is supposed to say that after having seen whatever, just give us a reason. This is the reason. Whether we agree or disagree with the reason, that's not the issue. That's the reason why I believe it was not important. Because where I'm sitting from, you undermine the decision of council because even in your communication, you didn't explain why the item is not there. That was the basis of the question that we are dealing with. Because we are conflicting it now with something else that we should not. And you should give us a clear answer and then as Councillor Chapter said, let's deal with the business of the day. And we can say we're happy with your answer, we're not happy, still give the report as requested. And that's it. And as a reasonable, because we are putting a lot of legs on this thing. The original question in February meeting was a simple question also. But now we conflicted with other things that should not be part of it.
Thank you.
And it's just making it difficult that we now start to discuss. Because I also have a problem, and let me put this on record also, that you talk about an issue as the speaker, raising that you have a letter and you're busy dealing with, and then you decide only to raise one issue. And that for me is also concerned. Why you only raised one issue? Because it's an assessment. Why didn't you read the whole letter to council? So I think that the manner in which the things currently be dealt with is actually creating more problems for us than anything else. So just give us that. What's your reason why you didn't give it to us? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman de Vries. Alderman de Vries, the reason why the, not the letter, but why the report is not here. The report, there is specific things that the MEC wants. So I don't want to be conflicted. That council have already expressed its feeling and make a resolution on something that the MEC will or will not find anything wrong with. So that is mainly the reason why it is not here. I don't know if we must go into any further debate on this issue, councillors. I think we must proceed. Councillors, we will get that information. Whether we will get it today, whether we'll get it in a week's time or in a month's time. I've even said that we will have a special council meeting. As soon as I've received everything back, what I've submitted, my office have submitted to the MEC when it comes back, then we will have a special council meeting. We won't wait until the next ordinary meeting. Councillor Alderman, I would really like now us to move on. So can it stand over, please?
I wanted to propose, Speaker, that we move on. Because all these debates may taint the entire process.
Yes.
I am satisfied with the way in which you have handled the issue. I'm totally satisfied. We did not venture into the details, into the merits of the case. So the process has not been flouted as yet. The MMS recused himself. The information that I have divulged in terms of Section 28 of the Systems Act, I'm entitled to do this because it's in the open. So I propose that we move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you then, Council, and then I just want to apologize if there was any confusion caused from my side, from the Office of the Speaker. My humble apologies, and I hope that Council will accept it in that fashion. Because it is my first time that I'm handling this type of thing. I'm also still learning of how to go forth and with it. So thank you very much. Can the MM please be called in, because it's his time now for his communication. Councillors, at any time at our previous council meeting, Councillor Lechaba put in a complaint to myself. So at any time when you want to go out, you want to go and use the ladies or not, please, not smoke breaks or anything, just raise your hand and then you may leave. I've only received, after Alderman Gireke has now alluded that he will leave at lunchtime. I've also received an apology to leave early if we are not done by 4 o'clock from Councillor Tauti, but I think we will be finished by then. Then I've made an arrangement with committee services that we will break for lunch at 2:30 in order not for us to break in between our business. So if you need to go out, please, you are more than welcome to go, but please just don't stay outside for 10 to 15 minutes. Did somebody went to call the MM? Ek het nou nie gesê julle moet nou loop nie. Ai. Dis die MM. Okay. Welcome back, MM. MM, we are at point number 9. My apologies, point number 8, communications by yourself.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, just maybe you made the remark that I forgot to inform about the whereabouts of some of my officials. My apologies. Just for the record, I'd like to inform Council that Mr. Africa is still on special leave due to ill health. So Mr. Johan Kompion is acting on his behalf. Mr. Otto is on leave, and Mr. Menze is traveling to Cape Town for an official business, and those are the senior officials that are not present today. Second, Speaker, just on point number 4, for information, on noting the provisions of the Code of Conduct, just to inform councillors that since the amendment of the Municipal Structures Act, the schedule in the Systems Act on the Code of Conduct for councillors is being migrated to the Structures Act. Now that has necessitated the promulgation of regulations in terms of the Structures Act. So there is a process that involves public participation to formulate those regulations. I've asked the officials to share the correspondence with all the councillors so that you can make your comments on the regulations that will be published on the Code of Conduct for councillors. Thank you, Speaker, for that. Mr. Mayor, you have made reference to the regional waste facility. As we confirmed last week at the strat plan session, that is our top priority project. Yesterday, I signed the specification for the tender for banks to submit for the money that we need to build the the waste facility, which then means the project is at implementation stage. As we said, we are busy with the authorities. We're sending drawings and everything to them for approval. But I think it's encouraging to also report that we're engaging the participating municipalities. Yesterday, we had a meeting with Naisna municipality, and the meeting was very positive. They are supportive of everything, including the period and everything else. We are set to engage Moselby municipality. They've written us a letter. There's a few matters we need to clarify with them. Firstly, it's the issue of the administration costs, which are at 10%. We just need to again explain to them why it is at 10%. The second thing for them is that originally we didn't have the issue about the vehicle tires in the whole planning, which is now part of the plan, and they welcome that, but want to understand the implications of that. Thirdly, it's the whole issue of the 20-year repayment period, which we must explain. You'll understand, councillors, that quite a number of people are engaged in waste minimization projects. Now, if you are going to tie yourself into a 20-year project, what if your strategies become successful so that your volumes that go for landfill are very small and you are expected to be committed over a 20-year period. And that is the work that we're explaining to them. I think we are at the same level with Pito municipality, but we'll just engage the new municipal manager that side so that they understand where we are. I think the only issue that we still need to resolve, George, was two. They raised the issue of who is the owner of the asset, and we explained that the asset belongs to Garden Road District, and they wanted to know what they're going to do with the money that will be raising from this, and we are able to answer that the money will be used for our own purposes because it is our money. So that is that, Mr. Mayor, about the regional waste facility. We've taken note of the discussions on the matters Mr. Mayor have raised. We are working on the policy on vaccination. It will be developed as was discussed here with expert input, but it will be taken through the normal policy development processes of this municipality. And we would invite everyone to participate so that we can have some clarity if there will be any mandates on vaccination. Yes, the issue of critical skills, we've also are engaged in a process to determine what, from all the sources that we've mentioned, what do we mean as Garden Road by critical skills for purposes of internally and externally for the regional economy. So we are addressing that. We've got a project on utilization of staff as well to see if certain people can be redeployed to other more productive areas, taking into account the pressures on the cost of employment and skills development. Yes, the issue of human settlements, we have already reported extensively last week that we have already submitted the accreditation application. And Mr. Mayor and Speaker, I think it is very commendable that we received a call from the Head of Department of Human Settlements commending the officials that attended the Standing Committee on Human Settlements that was doing public participation meetings here, the performance they did there. And I think they covered themselves in glory as the officials of Garden Road to make the committee understand what is it that we were doing on human settlements. I think that is that from my side, but Speaker, I'll be remiss not to, I think in the presence of Council, congratulate all the staff that organized the strategy planning session last week, and I think they did very well. And those that made presentations, they did very well. We also really welcome the engagement by councillors on all the matters that were discussed last week. We will then be putting together a report from the strat plan. We will table it here for the resolution of all those matters that were agreed. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, MM. Any questions for the MM? Alderman De Vries.
Speaker, no, this was raised in the stretch session, but I know that perhaps for that part I didn't give attention. There was the issue around the MMF raised now the issue about the redeployment in called project. Is this part of a formal organizational review, or are we only looking at specific areas in terms of where we look at the utilization of staff, which can assist us, as we're saying, that without growing the organization, but we can actually utilize them better. Thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Gerke.
Yeah, Speaker, thank you. I just want to ask the municipal manager through you, are we on target now with the recycling plant? Are we, because on the on previous submissions to this council, it was said that some municipalities, and I could extrapolate from the mayor's input also at the strat session, that some municipalities do not understand, or they defy, or they don't want to cooperate. I just want to understand, because there are financial implications here. And the thing is, if the bulk of the money is going to come from the district municipality, and these other municipalities are going to use the facility, what is the position there? How do we have a strategy in terms of the way forward? We would like this project to come into fruition because it's coming on a long time. And I think we are running out of time on this project, but what are we going to do with the municipalities that do not want to buy in? We cannot just say all the time that we had a problem with them, with all due respect. The last time you also said we had a problem with George and a problem with this and problem with that. Have those problems been resolved? And are we on track? And if we are not on track, and if they have not resolved on these issues, what is the way forward? Are we, as the Garden Route District Municipality, gonna carry the brunt or the bulk of the money for the development, the establishment of this facility? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Speaker, let me just ask you, if we carry the bulk of the money, do we have a strategic financial plan for the way forward over the 20 years to recover this money? And we would love to understand also, how are we going to recover this money? How is it going to affect service delivery on the district level? Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Speaker. We are expected to, on an annual basis, review the structure of the organization. And that process will take its course, Speaker. And I think once that is done and all consultations are done, we will bring the org structure to council for approval. I think the new staff regulations also speak to the process that must be followed. However, since a year or two, we have been, as we said last week, looking at how are we going to, on a long-term basis, address the whole issue of cost of employment. And part of that was to say, do we not have excess capacity in various departments that can be redeployed, reskilled, retrained, so that they can work in different departments? Ms. Trix Olsen is engaged with that particular project on its own. But it is, I'm sure at some point will be linked to the whole review of the structure of the organization. What we have done, we have asked all employees that may want to be moved elsewhere to indicate their intentions, but at some point we will then have to sit down with people and discuss whether or not they can be productive elsewhere. That process involves the unions. It will go through the LLF, and it will eventually be resolved here in council, obviously with the inputs from councillors. On the waste facility, Speaker, we are under pressure, as we have been for a long time. I am expecting a letter from PetroSA indicating that they finalized their review of the airspace that is left, and that the extension that we now have was the last extension. So by its expiry, Bito, Naisna, Mossel Bay, and George will have nowhere to landfill or to take their waste. However, in terms of our own planning, we are confident that we will meet that deadline, working with the consultants and the departments that are involved. We have said in the past, there has been challenges regarding participating municipalities, and we've been open about that. But I've just reported that we are moving very positively forward. We had a meeting yesterday with Naisna. There are no issues. There are no issues with Bito municipality. We are scheduled to meet Mossel Bay to address three things. One, the issue of the 10% admin fee, the issue of the tires, and the 20-year period of repayment. Those matters are not very difficult to understand, and I think we'll find each other. We are scheduled to meet George Municipality to address two matters. One is the 10% and the ownership of the asset, and just a question as to what we will intend doing with the monies that we will be getting from this. As it relates to a strategy for repayment, we do have a financing model that we have discussed with all participating municipalities that shows how the monies must be repaid. But over and above that, this council approved a few years back a bylaw on the collection of monies for the waste facility. So we do have something that we can enforce as a municipality against whoever uses our facility to pay for the use that they enjoy from our facility. So there is a strategy and a plan on how to recoup those monies. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions for the then we will proceed. Point number 9, that is the approval of the minutes of our council meeting of Tuesday, the 29th of March, 2022 at 11 o'clock. 9.1. Councillors, I know that you have read through the minutes. Are there any corrections? Councillor van Noordwijk?
Thank you, Speaker. I just would like on page 16, in the 4th paragraph, there stands Meneer Elmings and it should be Mr. So that's just a grammatical thingy that should be corrected. And then I would propose that we approve the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor van Noordwijk. Any other corrections? Alderman Gericke?
Yeah, I struggled to read the interaction that there was with regard to the withdrawal of the item under gratuity. I don't see it here. Maybe I missed it here, Speaker, but it's important for the record going forward that there was an agreement withdrawing the item with the understanding that the item will come back to this council.
Alderman, thank you, Alderman. Advocate? Alderman De Vries? Page?
Yes. Item E7 on the minutes, page the date.
Oh,
Do you find it, Councillor?
thank
It's
you.
there on the screen. Thank you. Thank you. So I've got a proposal in the form of our work of council, Councillor van Noordwijk. Yes, Councillor Sumaya.
I'll second it, Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So point number 10 is the minutes of the mayoral committee meeting and section 79 committees for notification. 10.1. Mayor, it's from page 47 to page 67. We note that. That's for notification. Council? Julle is daarom baie stil. Can you put the mic on, please, and say
Speaker, yes, you will note it. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor. Standing items, point number 11. 11.1, appointments, service, exits, and labor relations information for March 2022. We've got the recommendation on page 68. On page 68, and it's for noting. Any questions? Yes, Councillor, you may proceed. Yes, Councillor Gungobela. Other mic on. Can you switch off, please? Councillor, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, although the report is for noting and it's for its information, I'm just concerned, Speaker, as I'm reading it, that there are many dismissals. And that concerns me, especially in the Department of Roads. What concerns, yes, dismissals, yes. What concerns me the most is we are having a high rate of unemployment in this country. And it's not what we want to see. We would like to see more people employed. And my concern is whether the superiors in that thing, the workers regularly. Because if you look at the cases are more of a conduct of the workers, and others are more of a sexual harassment, which I think is more of a work ethics and how to handle yourself in the workplace, which I think that maybe if the workers can be trained regularly on those issues, maybe this thing of dismissal can decrease. Is my concern. I would like it to be followed, because really it's so difficult
when you were employed, and then in the end of the day, you don't have the bread for the children on the table. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Kungubela. Councillor Lambajin.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Speaker. Good morning. Speaker, I just want to also allude to the very same point our councillor was making. A small remark in terms of this report, more particularly to the disciplinary part of this report. We also have a discussion this morning in Mako with regards to this report as well. I do not want to spark a debate on this, but I cannot help noticing, as you also alluded to, 4 dismissals on page, I think it was on page 69, if I'm not mistaken, that took place during this period. I know as a councillor, we cannot interfere into disciplinary processes, but I cannot also ignore what is happening in our country. We all know that the joblessness and also the unemployment rate is so high. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost over 50%, if I'm not mistaken, just assist me there. And also the impact of COVID-19, we must also recognize COVID-19 had a huge impact in our employment rate and joblessness that is going on. That has contributed to this matter. So what I'm saying and what I'm asking is, dismissals must be the very last resort. I really need to look, we need to look into other interventions, as I've mentioned this morning in our Mako. We must also look at maybe sanctions such as, I'm not sure whether it's contained within the code of conduct, but we need to look at sanctions because other departments, state departments, there's also a sanction of 3 months suspension without salary. I don't know whether it's contained within, somebody must assist me through you, the MM maybe, or corporate services. We should look more into that type of alternatives when we come to dismissing people. I also know there's an open door for maybe an appeal if there's appeals, but also it also might happen that appeals can fail in the end. And really, and the code of conduct, as I know, the code of conduct from a labor perspective is that punishment, or let me rather put it this way, it's to correct the behavior of the person and not to punish, as I know what is contained, and that is the intention of the code of conduct. For now, I'm just going to rest there. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Ona.
Thank you, Speaker. I can assure you, as far as my department is concerned, and with the labor relations legislation we've got, that all the disciplinary actions that are taken are done in a very fair and in a fair way. Everybody, or we all know that you are innocent until proven guilty. So regarding that, I can assure you that it's done according to the book. We've got SAGA, we've got legislation, and we've got national and the bargaining council basically prescribing to us what and how these things are got to be done. And everybody still has the opportunity when it is to appeal to sanctions, and sometimes sanctions are basically reviewed and it's not as stringent as we think. So I fully support what is in this document. I just want to say thank you to the department as well regarding that, because it's always a very, very comprehensive report. So I want to suggest that we note this report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, good morning. It is still morning, but good afternoon. It's good afternoon to the council and everyone else. Speaker, I think speakers that have spoken before me have stressed the fact that our country is not where it used to be in terms of the economy and in terms of the responsibilities that we as government have. And one of our responsibilities is to see to it that we safeguard our people from poverty. Now, I think Councillor Kungubelo earlier on, they've raised the issue of the seriousness of the misconduct, one being in the form of sexual harassment, and yet such, you don't have yet the outcomes on those cases. But I'm not saying, Speaker, that these minor cases in terms of the contravention, but what we are saying, can we really look into having programs within the district? I understand in the 10 times when I was still an official, Mr. Mayor, that there used to be your employment wellness programs that were taking place. Now those, they've got a way of encouraging your officials to start understanding the culture. Now you must look at the kind of people, I'm not sure, but looking at the department itself, it's people that are not always around officers. So they wouldn't really have the understanding, even in terms of some of them, or the majority of the people, their knowledge in terms of understanding the policies as well. Hence, we are saying that if it could be better for even the unions to advocate that within this municipality, we have regular workshops for people to understand what is it that they are supposed to be doing in terms of behavior. And because some of these people, they've got problems, Mayor, that are not only at work, they're coming with problems from home that will cause them just to go on AWOL, to come to work drunk. You know, those are the behaviors that we can really start contributing because people are here 8 hours in a day. So this is their home. With those words, we really appeal, not that we are saying we want to be politicians or we want to be people that interfere in the administration, but all that we are appealing, we are saying, let any and every disciplinary hearing, it should be a measure or it should be a way to remedy the situation, not really to cause any unnecessary disparity to our people. And we also should say that we concur with the speaker that says that the report is detailed. We are not dismissing that, but what we are saying, we are raising a concern on the dismissals. Please, can we go easy on dismissing our people and just find another way? Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman De Vries. Alderman Gierke, you must just switch on your mic, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maya, your mic was on one stage, but now you switch. You must remember, I will allow you in order of the mics. So if you want to say something, you must keep on your mic.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The one issue that I will address relates to the issue around EPWP. Sometimes I make the abbreviation wrong. Now, Executive Mayor, this relates to the issue that I raised with you over our 3 days, 2.5 days in George. And this is the issue of allegations of political manipulation when it comes to those opportunities, whether it's EPWP, whether it's internships or learnerships. And I've raised that with you because it came to the attention from our councillors. And again, this issue was raised specifically again in our caucus when we went through this item. And I would like, from outside, would like association where we can actually have an oversight over this. Now, please, my late mother-in-law was unpopular. So please don't use unpopular excuses again for this. But no, I'm serious. It was my nickname. As it stayed with me for a couple of years. And we used to have reports where the actual names was, and you will recall in one of the meetings, actually, I can vividly remember when Councillor Chengwa even indicated in identifying or pointing to those allegations in terms of those manipulations as it happened. Now, I think that we should create a platform. I know that EPWP reported to a particular committee, but we are able actually to dispel in terms of those allegations. It's actually when this council or committee of council can actually look in terms of when those appointments are being made in terms of the names. Because otherwise we will keep coming to you and you will say, asking us, where's the proof? Now, in one of these cases, we might come to you in terms of this is what we have seen. This is what happened where only DA volunteers were appointed in a particular area, municipal area. And after intervention or some complaints from councillors, then there was a slight change. So I would like you, as executive mayor, seriously that when we have opportunities in this municipality, that it is opportunities for all the people of this district, and that we find a way in terms of that we can manage that, and that we don't keep coming to this council with those allegations. But if we are not having oversight, like our reports now have changed, and we don't see the names, then those allegations will keep coming. Thank you.
You may proceed, Councillor Chaba.
I think my colleague has said it. We are alleging. We are alleging. We are using things as a political tool, and it should not be like so. So therefore, we ask that if it's happening, it must stop. If it's not happening, give us the reports. Because this was created as a vehicle for the unemployment for all the citizens and all the people of the Garden Route. Because if now we're going to play politics with it, then it is not right. Because then we are not being fair to everybody as terms of opportunity. So therefore, we would like an oversight on this, and we get the reports with the names. It is very critical for us, because we also understand that this is what is on the ground. This is what is on the ground. And our people, they really need all these opportunities. And also, number two, it's how we roll out the EPWP programs at the Garden Route. Let it be transparent. Let it be transparent to all of us so that we understand, like now, the dates are open, which municipalities are going to do which certain programs. For instance, you see here in the report that we have, we are saying that in Bito, there was a smoke alarm, you know, we get that report. In that, the smoke alarm, because remember these things is also to empower our people, because we also don't want to get this report just for the sake of just telling us. We want to know whether they were empowered out of this process. So also those things are critical for us. But let us not use this vehicle for political gain. It is not correct and it is not right.
Lampies, wil jy weer praat?
Please, Speaker, if I may.
Can I
On
allow
a
Councillor
different issue.
Can I allow Councillor Gierke, then you, and then the mayor?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Please switch off.
Yeah, Speaker, thank you. I so wish that we all get to a point of political maturity where we look beyond who proposed and from which party that particular person is and whether I like him or not. When I raised the issue in this council that we attach names to those that are being pursued, disciplinary and so on, there was huge objection against that, although I qualified the reasons for my submission. And again, I reiterate that the reasons for that are that we can measure the race, the sex, the origin, and so on to ascertain what is happening in the municipality. And I'm not going to repeat this again. But in terms of this report, the danger of this report is that everybody seems to overlook with respect is that if you go through this list here, you will see that the same charges, contravention of the code of conduct, there are just so many other pending cases. In other words, you've already instituted disciplinary action against the first. It means you must be consistent with your next sanction. And it means automatic dismissal because you've dismissed the others already on the contravention of the code. It means that as we speak here, we are awaiting dismissal in any way. You cannot revoke, you cannot call it back because you have set the trend for it in any way. Now, there's just one point, Mr. Mayor, through the speaker, that I want to make a call on the attendant. There can be no interference. There can be no interference whatsoever if council exercise oversight over its policies. It cannot be construed as interference. I don't know how whoever is going to qualify that in a court of law or on a platform. But we must invoke all our policies in order to prevent that we just get rid of people. We must evoke the policy, the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. Sometimes people have other problems, as Councillor De Vries or the Chaba has said. They have domestic problems at home, and we don't know the origin of their problems in terms of which they suffer. Therefore, before we embark on this missile, fire people, just get rid of them, subject them to that policy, and let a social worker or a psychologist do an assessment of those people, and let the reports that serve in front of council, let us see the reports of the assessment of the experts in terms of why these people should be dismissed. Those reports should serve as mitigation, although council cannot interfere afterwards, but we at least have sight of those reports, and we must make sure that those reports were included in the initial hearing so that we familiarize ourselves with what is happening in the workplace. So as Councillor Elder Lady Onakacha has said, she's satisfied. If there are discrepancies, I'm going to support my DA Councillor Lambertine, our ANC councillors, to say, let us look deeper into the issue of employment, of dismissal, and let us do justice and fairness to all these processes. Let dismissal be the last resort, a total last resort, before we get rid of people in the workplace. Now, Mr. Mayor, I have done a very humble submission. I don't want you to fight with me, Mr. Mayor. I want you to take me out of my predicament if I am in some kind of predicament. In other words, I say, when we answer, let us not answer to react, but let us discuss the issues at heart, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lambertine, Councillor De Vries, and then Councillor Iona will be the last, and then the mayor will not react, but he will respond.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Yes, with reference to page 69 again, Speaker says it's a little bit something else. That is the appointments. I have noticed also 3 appointments, and also we are all aware of the moratorium that is placed on appointments. Just a remark, just putting something there. Colleagues, Speaker, to you, I just want to know the issue of, we said we're going to only apply our mind to critical positions, meaning that we're going to appoint those people that is in critical positions. The only thing I want to know is, I don't want names, nothing. I just want to know, Speaker, through you to corporate services, just to give us a breakdown or what does it mean to, when you say critical positions? What is maybe the criteria that we can use to identify what is critical positions? And that is more or less my remark I want to make. And we also discussed this morning as well into makeover. I feel we have to discuss this also in this platform as a council meeting. Thank you very much, Speaker.
You may proceed, you.
Thank you. Now I was. Oh, must I wait for the camera? No, I needed to respond to that because what is the screen, but that I will allow that Mr. Racer to respond. Speaker, I want to just speak to our chief of next to me in context in terms of our question that we raised on the issue about the dismissals and issues. We want to make it very clear that we don't want to get involved in labor relation matters and in the work of the administration. The concern that was raised by our councillors was the issue around, one, whether we have the programs, if not, can't we approve? If we have it, can't we have more regular process? So in that context about employee health and issues with our workers understand of code of conduct. But from nowhere, we want to say that let's intervene in some of the process that is there, because you create more problems for you if you're going to do that. So our concern is more to how do we prevent this to happen? rather than to want to interfere in the processes. So everything we do must be within the labor relations forums and regulations and laws, and we know there's a lot of them. So we don't want to interfere in those processes. I think from this side of the house, we want to make that clear. Thank you.
Councillor Ona, can that mic be switched off there, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last note from my side. This council took a decision a month or two ago that we will not make the names of any staff members known as far as the Property Act and everything else, and respect for privacy is concerned. We took that decision a month or two ago. So I cannot see why we still have to insist on names, because that's out of the question. As far as to prevent any wrongdoings by the staff, we've got serious EHP programs that we basically enroll to the staff members of the municipality to. It goes about financial, it goes about emotional well-being. There's such a lot of programs that we are basically running out to our staff members. So you try, but you've got to do with human beings, and human beings can fail. They do tend to fail. Nobody in this room is perfect, and nobody's not ever made a mistake. So regarding that is concerned, we've got to keep in mind that we work with human beings, and there will always be somebody making a mistake or doing something that they're not supposed to do. But as far as that's concerned, and I'm positive that the processes that this municipality is basically in taking forward, and how to discipline staff if it is necessary to do it, that they do all in their power to do what is right, and to give it. Everybody is innocent until such time that you are proven guilty. And that is part of our constitution and the rule of law that we have to keep in mind. So I just want to say that, and then when it comes to the EPWP, we are politicians, and it would not have been possible if politicians are the ones that basically interfere with all sorts of systems and with processes and whatever. So what do we want to do with this if we know who's on these EPWP programs? We can go, that's probably 90% of the municipal laws and everything is put into place because politicians don't know how to behave. And again, we've got a municipal manager that oversees all these processes. He's basically been appointed to do this, and that is his responsibility. We've got no jurisdiction over staff members, only over the section 56 and 57 appointees, and for nobody else. So I want to really say that we've got to make our minds, ons moet ons minds opmaak. Gaan ons nou aanhou met hierdie elke maand, or are we going to sort of accept that what is happening in this organization is all above board? I'm sure if you have to and you want to get more information, you can go to the MM and ask him, and he'll probably provide you with the information. But please, I mean, this is a every month story that we need names and we need this and we need that, and we've made a decision. We're not going to reveal the names. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. So let the processes go, because it's fair and it's above board. Impact chairperson, if you're not happy with it, why don't you ask from your side for the information that you want? I'm sure the MM will basically divulge, or will he basically give you the information. But why do we have to keep on asking the questions? Why do we think that the process is not above board? And why do we think that this is not a fair process? We've got other people looking over our shoulders when it comes to 90% of the time that the chairpersons or the people taking these decisions or making the sanctions are not people employed by this municipality, but independent people that are being appointed, or SALGA, or this one, or the Labour Department, or whatever is involved. So I really think that we if there's really something wrong, I'll give you credit for that. But for the balance, I really think that we do everything in our power to basically to support our staff and to help them to grow in the organization. But they are human beings.
Thank
and
you.
They will make mistakes.
Thank you, Councillor Ona. Councillors, I think we have exhausted this item now. I will allow Councillor Lechaba. So Mayor, you and Councillor Lechaba must just switch mics. You must switch off and then the mayor will be the last one to speak on this. Then we will proceed.
Okay.
Councillor Lechaba.
Thank you, Speaker.
Mayor, put on your mic, please. Thank you.
Speaker, I just want us to, I don't think we must take it in the light of that. We are here, we need to hold each other accountable, and we need to also be able to implement and do service delivery. You see, the sad part is this, that we have communities. People are talking, people know each other. These things is not like it's coming. These are our constituencies. They tell us that this is what is happening. And our duty is to come here and then we debate and then we tell you, this is what are people saying. Hence, we are saying these are allegations. And for us, it's for us, if we are doing things above the board, then it's for us to be transparent to our constituencies and say, this is how it's happening and this is how. That is all. All we are saying that our people there, they are talking about these things. And then for us, we need to give them the information and be transparent to our communities. And that is what they deserve.
Mayor. And then the MM.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you were correct when you observed that I would switch my mic on and I would switch it off again. And the reason for that is that all the speakers, especially those who dealt with the employee, the dismissals, etc., they were raising matters and then they were giving the answers themselves again. You know, then I would back off, etc. But in a nutshell, the issue of employee health, ethics, the issues raised by Councillor Toto, etc., is that some of the projects or the interventions must happen on a continuous basis, you know, where we can pick up these things before the acts are committed, you know, so that there can then be a record as well that so-and-so did attend such and such a workshop on gender-based violence. If that happens, we need to go back into the system to see, was this person there? And if the person was there, then it's a different ballgame. The same applies to ethics, work ethics, etc. If HR and the relevant departments, if we can do that in all departments on a continuous basis, then people would not have a leg to stand on to say that they did not know. The same applies with code of conduct. Those things must go on a regular basis. So if that happens, because unfortunately, there are transgressions that there's no two ways about it. Sexual harassment, theft, there's no two ways about it. You know, so those things must, union guys, those things must happen even in staff meetings. It must be a constant reminder. This, you can't do this, you can't do that. And if you have an issue, go and speak. You're correct. Some people are bringing problems from work. I mean, from home, and they bring it to work. So those things can be picked up if we do those things on a regular basis. So that is the one thing. The issue on the allegations, I do take the allegations serious, and those possibilities exist. I've been there, done that, seen that. It does exist. It is possible to manipulate the system, as you were saying, Alderman De Vries. Those possibilities do exist. But let me emphasize on this, and I'm actually glad that we're raising this. EPWP is a political program. Yes, it is. And I can tell you where, yes, EPWP is a political program, but here's the difference. Here is the difference. It should not be politicized. But it is the only way where councillors can say, I need this project in my ward. And not the MM can come up with it, or not any official. You councillors in your ward, this is where EPW comes in. You identify a project in your ward and say, can't this be done? And if there's an EPWP budget, then the answer is yes, or the answer is no. That's political. It comes from councillors. EPWP can come from councillors to say that, MM, you have this problem, stormwater, we're having trees issues, graveyards that are not cut, who gets the flag for that? It is councillors. So councillors can bring that. But the difference is, and it's in my office, the difference is, if you bring it to me, I must not just employ the people of my party. That is where the difference comes in. The same as what you've raised, I'm still struggling with internships because sometimes I bump into interns here. Some of the internships we do not have control over because it comes from province, it comes from national, it comes from CETAs, you know. But if the CETAs or national or whoever have put out the advert for that, it is the councillor's role to go and sensitize your constituency, to say that adverts are out. Can you guys go and apply? Because you know Uzoleka is not working and she's got grade 12. You know Pete Pompis is a plumber. Go to him and say, according to the library, there's an advert in the library. That's the role politicians should play. But let me come to the manipulation of the system. I get flack, and this is why I'm saying I'm glad you guys have raised it so that you can advise me even now. All the B municipalities have their own EPWP. They don't touch base with the district when they roll out their EPWP. They do their own thing. They manipulate if they do, or if they advertise, And I'm going to come to the problem I'm faced with. The moment the district, or let me finish off with the Bs, and some of the B councillors here, you get roughshod in your Bs and you bring that issue here to the district. If you can fight your EPWP fight in your B, good for you. But the problem is, and I'm gonna qualify this, a specific party does exactly what you guys are raising and don't consider certain parties. Now you come to me and you say, hey, Mr. Mayor, you know. Now this is what I want, where I want you guys to help me. There is where I want you guys to help me. Now when the district has an EPWP project and we take it to an area in your areas, you know what the Bs do to us? They come to me and they say to me, we want 50% of that, but they've never offered us 50% of their EPWP. Now, can you guys advise me, what do I do in such instances? And I'm gonna spell it out here. There are municipalities, Oudtshoorn, Kannaland. There was a stage where I did not even take EPWP there because of this. They would throw it back at me and say, you will do 1, 2, and 3. Then I say, then no, thank you, you're not gonna get it. There were also instances where municipalities would say to me, thank you, but no thank you. We don't have positions for these people, but we pay, we buy uniform. All we need from the Bs is supervision. And the Bs still say no to me. Oudtshoorn especially in the previous term, not now, in the previous term, Oudtshoorn would say to me, thank you, but no thank you, the same Kannaland. Now, we need to change that. There are now new mayors, we need to change that. And there are municipalities where I seriously give them 50%, and you guys get affected because of that. Because there's nothing going to happen if I don't give them 50%. It's either 50% or 0%. The best municipalities with EPWP, let me spell it out now. The best municipalities is Hesekwa and Mossel Bay. They're the only municipalities that they will even take 1,000 if they can. The others say thank you or give me a cut. So please advise me on how do I deal with giving a cut. But then again, I'm going to come up with a system where with EPWP, I'm going to inform you guys. I'm going to inform this side of the house, that side of the house, and this side of the house. I'm going to inform you and say, here's our EPWP. Then you must then also help fight the Bs, because the Bs is also a problem when it comes to EPWP. And the naming of who's in the system, you're correct. Tengwa would used to mention names and say, this is a DA member, he stays in house number so-and-so. He used to do that the whole term last year because the names are there. Now I don't have problems with names, Alderman Gericke. With names, job names, I don't have a problem with that. With job names, I don't have a problem. There'll only be a problem when it comes to disciplinary issues and whatever. But with job names, I don't have a problem. And we'll see how we can meet each other 50-50 with EPWP. And then the issue raised lastly, Madam Speaker, on critical positions or whatever. Colleagues, we should not have a moratorium as we speak, because it was based on the fact that we did not have an MM. We now do have an MM. The only thing we now need to do is we now need to all sit down and agree on what do we define as critical, so that we can know from the start, because everybody here has got his own definition of what is a critical position. For me, just as an example, roads is critical for me, fire is critical for me, finance is critical for me, support staff is critical for me. Somebody else would have a different opinion on that. We need to agree on that. And if we have that, then MM, through you, Madam Speaker, then MM, you can then know what you must also raise. What do you, as the administration, define as critical? And then we agree on these posts are critical, and then any other thing that is on the fringes, we then cut the fat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maya, for that lengthy explanation. MM?
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, councillors. I just want to make a few remarks on the report that is in front of you. I'm just going to go through in terms of, I'm not in order of what was raised, but to be precise, apparently I was not there, but there is a council decision that was taken that no new post must be filled as of the day of the resolution. And only critical posts, specifically from the roads department, the human settlements must be filled because they're externally funded. And that those processes that had begun previously before that resolution can be concluded. Now, during the period under review, the only posts that have been filled are there in the report from the roads department. There are 3. It's the senior supervisor in Union Dale, senior worker in George, and the general attendant in Union Dale. The other post that was filled is the one that I reported at the strat plan, the manager for waste, Mr. Gay, who is leading the regional waste facility and other related projects. A post that had been ongoing since the passing away of the fire chief was that of filling the post of fire chief. That post was supposed to be filled, I think even before the decision on the moratorium. It's not been filled. It was impacted upon by other processes, and I think the colleagues are reviewing it. In terms of the resolution, Speaker, to Councillor Lambachin, that resolution has been carried. It has not been broken. I also understand that when council took that decision, filling means you do not employ. It did not necessarily mean you can't issue an advert, you can't interview. I understood in that context, and I think the people that were here would agree with me. So it was not done. So the resolution was respected. I know there's other stuff that people have talked about, but officially I can assure council that that was respected. Councillors, I cannot agree more with you on the understanding of our economic realities in terms of unemployment. We are very much alive to that reality. That is why all the time we discuss the cost of employment of this municipality, I'm saying on the options that we have, retrenchments must be the last one, because we have a serious problem of unemployment. So we do agree that we should be sensitive to the reality people are facing, and we should not retrench. Now, I just want to inform you that as much as I appreciate the nobility of the idea of not dismissing people, it is not necessarily my purview, because it's independent chairpersons that look at specific facts of a particular matter and come to a decision. Now, I don't want us to agree that I must interfere in those processes, because that agreement would be unlawful. But I agree fully with you, councillors, that we must be alive to so many realities that we have mentioned. That is why those who work with me, unions and everybody, will tell you what we have done in resolving a lot of cases through alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. So when there's a grievance, there's a person charged, we have been able to remove them from the disciplinary processes. We've been able to get agreements to say, let's do it differently than just throwing a book at people. So we do that. Every employee of this organization will tell you, Mr. Mayor, through your speaker, that they are all inducted when they arrive here on policies, on conduct, on everything. They are re-inducted, they are refreshed, there are workshops. I took it personally to go around and talk about the sexual harassment policy to all employees, especially those that work outside, as mentioned. We will have to enhance on those activities to ensure that people really do obey. It's a pity some of the things in front of you would appear that there's too many dismissals when 3 people committed a similar offense at the same time. So in that situation, they were charged, the 3 of them, and dismissed. It's not like there was a lot of people, but people committed a similar offense in one case, were charged and found guilty. But people have got the right to appeal all these decisions. And in the past, there are those that have appealed successfully. And we will continue because Advocate Nadima is leading that to do workshops. We also took an extraordinary step to say, we believe that somehow the capacity to represent the employees by the unions is not sufficient, because some of the cases were really being messed up by the representatives. We said, let us workshop the shop stewards themselves to be able to represent their people sufficiently. And that work is something that we're going to do. So I do want to say, councillors, we hear you. We will intensify the employee assistance programs. We'll review the inductions. The one challenge we must all face is that when independent chairpersons have made their determinations, they must not be easily interfered with or changed because we are worried. But I take the spirit of the councillors of what is it that you are saying regarding the discipline. I also am aware that you are not saying we must be soft on discipline and allow chaos to run in the organization. I understand that perfectly. I think on recruitment for EPWP councillors, as you are all aware, our biggest source of problems is councillors that would make requests to employees. And it is your request that sometimes land us in what you are debating today. But I think we are aware about what your thinking is and what the mayor is saying. And I think I trust the officials that are there, that they are doing the right thing. Speaker, there is a lot of distrust on government generally by members of the public. And it doesn't augur well for the confidence of your officials. They would like to believe that they can be trusted to make correct decisions. And that not every conjuncture or innuendo must be an issue that they must be worried about, because there are people with nefarious intentions that make malicious allegations against officials. And we want to believe that our employers trust us, that we're doing the right thing. And when we are wrong, we are called upon to account. So we do want to ask for you to show some confidence on the staff that you have employed, that they are capable of doing the right thing, not to always look at their shoulder and feel untrusted by their employer. They make decisions every day. about employing people, about expenditure, about a lot of things that they must do. If they are constantly looking on their shoulders, it doesn't augur well for productivity in the organizations. People are going to refuse to take decisions that they're supposed to take because they believe they are not trusted. So we work very hard to earn your trust, but we would like to feel that you can trust that we can make the right decisions as your employees. As government public officials, there's a lot of allegations against us. Some frivolous, some very genuine. But we do want to feel that our council does have trust in us, that we can do the right thing. When people make allegations, we do not say take them lightly, but we also say just throw caution to the wind, that there could be other agendas that are at play. We will always account for what we have done. We understand where to account and what information we must give. And I'd like to invite councillors, whenever you are in need of information to do your work, my office is available. There is no secrets that we're hiding here. We are accounting to all the authorities that require us to account to, and we would want to believe that you can trust us that we can do the right thing. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. I will brief. Thank you, Mayor, that you didn't hide behind my late mother-in-law. And thank you for your honesty. I think that on the record, we want to take on the. I can't tell you now exactly how, but I think we will come to your office with ideas and together with officials that deals with it, that will actually say how do we manage this, and then hopefully in the next or the meeting after that you can communicate to the whole council. It is how we're going to manage it. Because the one thing that I'm fearful also. It should not be about the ANC and the DA and the party sitting here. It should be about the community. That person who don't belong to a party must also feel that he or she have access to the opportunities. Otherwise, because we are already even in some municipalities being accused, if you're not a member of a party, not even just a governing party, you are not going to have opportunity. And in our process, we must try to prevent that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alderman de Vries. Councillors, we will deal with section B, and then after that we will break for lunch. Section A, there is no report from the speaker. Section B, Mayor, B1, B2, and B3 are yours. So you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this one is probably one of the easiest of the tasks when it comes to finances because it's a compliance issue. We all know what is expected when we budget as an institution and we get additional funding, etc. There are some certain processes which we need to go through, and this is one of those items. And again, you know, sometimes I ask myself the question, you know, like the majority of our complaints are in roads, you know, and we always get additional funding for doing a good job. So, Mr. Daniels, I don't know where is the break even on this, because as I was saying, if there's a department or an item that gives me sleepless nights, it's roads, you know, but we know for what reasons. But at the same time, we also need to acknowledge that our roads department is the best in the province. That is why you keep on getting money, because of you getting rewarded for doing a good job. So colleagues, this is one of those things that we have received a lot of money again from roads for roads department. And I hereby then table this adjustment budget for adoption.
Councillors, the recommendation you will find on page 75. The bottom of the page, number 5, that's the recommendation, and it moves over to page 76. Can we go with that? Councillor Barker.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, just before we accept this item, I believe that the CFO has got some information with regards to just changes of the format of the specific budget, which doesn't have any influence on our figures at the end of the day, but it's to be noted. Thank you.
Before you, Finance Minister, Alderman Gericke.
Yeah, Speaker. On page 89, can I just understand there by the operating surplus deficit. That deficit of 11 million rand proposed for this third adjustment, but it's not an unfunded budget. So what is actually happening there? Did we not budget for it in the beginning of the financial year? Were there emergencies? What will that money be used for? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Administration, can we just go to that page 89, so that it can be on the screen, and then you may proceed, Jan Willem.
Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon, all councillors. Councillor Gericke, that deficit is of 11 million rand. That's the net of the revenue and the expenditure that was budgeted for. It didn't change during the year. That was what was approved in the budget, aside from that 300,000 rand, which I can explain to you if you want to. But in terms of the question on a deficit versus a funded or a not funded budget, this is a matter that we also touched on during the strategic session, that the deficit for the year is basically just looking at the income and expenditure of the current financial year. We have some cash reserves that assist in funding the budget. So when we submit our budget to province and national treasury, they then do an assessment on whether you can actually fund the expenditure that you have on your budget. And in that instance, they don't only consider the revenue in the year, because in our case, our in-year revenue does not exceed our in-year expenditure. They also consider whether you have reserves to cover what you have budgeted for. And in our case, we do have reserves that is assisting with funding the budget. And that is the difference between, that is why we can say that even though there is a deficit budget for the year 21-22, it is funded and not unfunded because of the cash that is available in our reserves. But also mentioned at the strategic session, that is why it is so important that we see the results of our efforts to get additional revenue for the municipality, because our cash reserves are not unlimited. There is a pot that we cannot spend all of it. We must address the revenue and in year so that we do not go into our reserves, and that is the target and the work at hand really where we are at the moment.
Alderman Gericke.
Yeah, Mr. Jan Willem, my limited knowledge of mathematics and of accountancy, basic elementary knowledge, will tell you if you budget in the beginning of the year and you say this project will be 100,000 or 200,000 rand, then obviously that 100 or 200,000 rand must last you for the entire year. That's basic elementary knowledge. So I don't understand why you come back for a third adjustment budget if you have the funds and you are asking now again for 11 million rand, which you say is not unfunded, but you are asking for the money anyway. This is just a mental note. I don't want to put you under severe cross-examination. This is not my purpose, but this is just what I'm telling you. My understanding is we will now have a lot of excuses, but I mean, the item speaks for itself, not so? Thank you, Mr. Jan Willem.
Uncle.
Speaker, through you, this third adjustment budget is because of the money that we have received from roads and transport. Hence, we've got this budget, and you would also see on page 89 that it is in and out, so it didn't change the bottom effect of the deficit. And then I would just like, if everybody is okay with it, for our CFO to explain to us with regards to the reporting format of the budget. Thank you.
Maya, can I allow the CFO and then you will be last? Or do you want to give clarity on something? Okay. Thank you. Maya.
All right, thank you. And the CFO will explain the format. I just need to put a curveball here, but it's for myself, the CFO, and the MM, and it's got nothing to do with what is in front of us, but it is related. And I'd like us to find out, how did they do it? apparently the Cape Winelands district, remember with the roads people, the money comes from province, the what are these other benefits? Post-retirement and whatever, apparently. Now those post-retirements is sitting in province Kitty, but apparently Cape Winelands has got it in their bank account. So we just need to find out, and I'm saying apparently because when they make presentations, this is what I pick up, and I forget to ask because I'm not a financial, don't. You know, so we must just find out how did they do it and why are they the only ones? Because that would also bring a different ball game to our arguments on whether we financially sound or not. Thank you.
And Willem?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, just to elaborate on what Councillor Barker has referred to, you will find from page 92 the annual budget tables. It is those detailed tables that is produced in the format as prescribed by National Treasury. You will also recall at the strategic session, there was a presentation by Dr. Kukamur referring to specifically all the IMSCOA circulars that have been issued over the last few years since implementation. And we've embarked on a review to ensure that our schedules are aligned to the way that National Treasury populates the schedules for us from the data streams we submit out of the systems. So we did go through a process which has caused some of the supporting tables to change. It doesn't change any of the income or the expenditure that is put to council in the item that is covered by the resolutions. But for instance, the tariff for the landfill site has moved from other service charges or other revenue to service charges. So it is just changes in where some of the amounts lie on these schedules. And we would want to update these schedules with these reviewed schedules, because that will then assist with less questions and inquiries from National Treasury. As guided by Dr. Kukarmu, these are now more aligned to the way that National Treasury does it. So basically, we just want to make use of the reviewed schedules when we submit this item, and not the items that was included in the agenda, but to confirm that it doesn't change any of the income or the expenditure that has been presented to council. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We've got a proposer in the form of the mayor, and then a seconder, please.
I will second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. B2, Mayor, it's a draft integrated development planning framework and process plan for the 2022 to 2027 term. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and certainly.
Speaker, just in terms of the process, you just say propose a second, and then you went to the next item. You didn't ask whether there's any other proposals.
Oh, my apologies. Are there any other proposals?
No, Speaker, just telling you that.
I know that if there are, then your mic would have been on, Councillor. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they say in Afrikaans, what I'm going to say now is a holgereide perd.
Ons verstaan, jy mag maar voortgaan.
All right, it means you're repeating the same thing over and over again. Now, I'm going to repeat this by saying I'm fully aware that this new council has not embarked on its own IDP as yet. So this is a continuation of what we've inherited, just for us to get the guidelines in terms of what are we dealing with and how is the current budget being shaped. It is something that we've inherited, so this is tabled for noting. Thank you.
Any questions, councillors? The recommendations are on page 148. There's a 5.1 that we note. And 5.2, it says that the 2022-2027 draft district framework and process plan be published for public comment before final approval in May 2022. You will get the proposer and the second. Before that, Alderman Gireke.
Propose to note.
Thank you. Will you second?
Before I second the speaker, I just want to mention I think there's a notice out on the rep forum that will take place on the IDP in the 5th of May in Mossel Bay, if I recall that right. I just want to encourage our councillors also and work committees to be part of that meeting because it's very important, this thing of the IDP. And I also noticed that many of our municipalities is currently busy with their IDPs and stuff. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make that note, and then I will second the proposal. Thank you.
Alderman Gericke, before I.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, Councillor Lampis is out of order. Once you have embarked on the voting process, you must conclude the process. Thank you, Councillor Lambergian.
Councillors, thank you. We are on B3. That's a section 52, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, Madam Speaker, this is actually where the pawpaw hits the fan, where the rubber.
Vir my, jy praat daarom van baie goed vandag. Eers was dit horig gereën, nou is dit weer die
Alright.
popo iets te fan.
My apologies, my apologies. But what I do want to say, Madam Speaker, is actually this is where a mayor gets sleepless nights or not, when it comes to the Section 52 report, because it deals with your income, expenditure, underspending, the health of the municipality, the expenditure ratio versus the budgeted amounts, etc. And we'll never be happy. I'll never be happy, in terms of what are we spending on capital expenditure, etc. And what I've noticed, that is actually what the first thing Treasury looks at. How are we doing on capital expenditure? But we know we're different from the Bs, and our capital projects, are also different in that sense. And we know that we're sitting now with one of the biggest capital projects for the whole of the region. So, but that also has its commencement dates in terms of expenditure, etc. But this report always, Madam Speaker and colleagues, I know that it raises questions on the rands and cents, and one has to be accountable for it. But this is what we've got in front of us, and I'm tabling it, Madam Speaker.
Alderman Gericke.
Speaker, thank you. Mr. Mayor, just clarity on page 231. The landfill site of 60 million rand have been reduced in February adjustment budget. As per the estimated cash flows received from the engineer, it has been reduced. As we see here, the municipal manager has earlier on said that he has engaged the banks. Let us just understand, will there now be an adjustment to this or an addition to this in order to satisfy the need, satisfy the request for the landfill, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry. In other words, do we still need to add some money here, and that will that be added by what the engagement of the bank was? Will we make a loan there? What is the situation there? Thank you.
Jan Willem.
Thank you, Speaker. Councillor, that reduction was basically just a move from the total spend. The total spend still remains, say, almost 200 million rand, but instead of 60 million being spent in this financial year, it was just moved to only now spend, is it 2.5 in this year? So if, for instance, next year we would have spent 180, then that 180 for next year now grew with the amount that was moved out of this current financial year. So in terms of the loan application, that doesn't change. The amount stays the same. It is just in which year do we budget the spend. So in February, then there was a revision of when the actual money will go out of the door, which then caused us to shift the spending forward, but it doesn't affect the total project. It just affects what portion will be spent in this year.
Alderman De Vries and then Alderman Gericke.
Thank you very much. And let me thank Councillor Gericke to go to that page because I forgot about the issue that I want to raise. In terms of the capital budget, there's on the screen that it seems that the adjusted budget was 19 million and we only spent 2 million, which only present 12% of the budget. And in some way, it's the issues about landfill site is not part of that. So my question is that furthermore, somewhere in line number 3, it talks about that even in the third quarter, the procurement processes have not been committed. So the question that I have is that normally, let me make another statement, during when we deal with the budget and by the time we approve the budget, project plans is also part of that, and part of that process plan is also your supply chain. So the question that I have is that why in the third quarter we haven't yet then completed our procurement processes? Because it means now that we're only going to, actually some of this money will probably only be spent in the fourth quarter or even then in the next quarter. Was there specific reasons? And sometimes I know that this might be one big item, why we haven't concluded those procurement processes. Thank you.
And then you can respond.
Ja, ek het 'n oom gehad, Mr. Meyer, in Afrikaans wat altyd gesê dat stop, feed, don't walk. I want to tell you, ask you to stop, feed, don't walk, Mr. Jan Willem. Let us just first understand. Don't go so fast. If I understand you correctly, you defer the 60 million rand or the reduced amount of the city. You deferred. Now, if you deferred, it's fine, then you will have that cash. Whether it's 60 or whether it's 20, it doesn't matter. It will be deferred. Then we need to understand the total cost of the project. If you stick to the total amount that you're going to go out for 200 million rand, what then will you be using the other extra for? That which you have now been deferred. Because if I understand you, this money will still be available because it will be deferred. But you are applying for a 200 million rand, so what will we use this money for? This is the main question here.
Proceed. Yeah.
Councillor Geerke, I say 200 million rand, but I don't have the exact number, but it is more or less 200 million rand to build the landfill site. So we budgeted to borrow the money in the beginning or in last year, May. In the budget, we included borrowing of 60 million and spend of 60 million. But during the course of the project, it became clearer when the site will actually start to be erected, which then caused us to have to reduce the 60 million rand, which means we won't spend that money that was going to be funded by the loan in the current year. We'll only spend it in next year and most of it, all of it next year. So the amount that is currently on the budget really is the consulting fees to assist us to get the design and get the tender documents ready so that it can go out to tender and then to get the tender evaluated for the construction to start. So that's why I'm saying the total amount of spend hasn't reduced or hasn't changed, and the funding strategy hasn't changed. It is just literally moving the money out of the current year into the next year.
Maya?
Madam Speaker, I know we're gonna continue to have this discussion on the landfill side, but I'm just gonna be controversial now because this thing is gonna get controversial. In the sense that even when we're going to go and negotiate, myself, the MM and the CFO, when we're going to go and negotiate with the other municipalities that now are seeing some, other stuff and whatever, there's a difference, and it's going to affect the finances. There's a difference between the lifespan of this thing is 20 years. It is planned for 20 years. It will be designed for 20 years. That is not going to change. And when we're going to go to the banks, because of its original design, it gives you that amount. And my understanding is that the concessions will then also have an impact. If we're going to go and make concessions, let's say, for instance, when now all of a sudden we have a concession with one municipality, instead of 10%, it's 5%. It's going to have an impact in terms of how the bank look at our income stream compared to what they would eventually give us. You know, so all of that, Alderman, you know, so your question, I would have answered your question politically by saying some money was still with the project. You know, if we go for 200 and all of a sudden in year 10, muscle-based technology and George technology is of such a way that it has affected the bottom line of our loan, and there's because the money would be in our kitty and we would be responsible of servicing the loan, you know. So some of that money that might remain, we can use that to service the loan. That is just my layman's thingy. Thanks.
Alderman Gerke and then Councillor Lechaba.
Yeah. Mr. Jan Willem, on your response, let me just say, oh, I see. I can assure you, Mr. Mayor, through the speaker, there will be no controversy from our side with regard to the landfill site. We support the establishment of the landfill site 1,000%. There's no problem. It should have been done already in any way. So there's no news going to come out of this. The only problem is we are politicians here. And as rightfully said, right in the beginning, it's always said, don't interfere, don't interfere. But for me to make an informed decision, I must interfere here with the figures, with the amount. I must understand what the amount will be used for. In other words, in my very own business, before I embark on a project, I must bring to the board a business plan and a financial plan. And we must understand that. It doesn't make business sense, with all due respect to you, Mr. Mayor, through the speaker, that you keep some of this money to finance your loan afterwards. In other words, you work at a loss then. You cannot keep your own money to, it's like you're going to buy a car and you don't have the money to buy a car, you make a loan to pay the car. This is what you say in actual fact saying, sir. In other words, you're going to go to Absa Bank, say your car is 400,000 rand, so I'm going to secure a loan of 200,000 rand, yet in case I cannot pay my loan. Mr. Kompian, ek sien jy lag so lekker, maar this is the type of mathematics and things that we need to do. En die het niks te doen met cleverness soos wat ons gebrand wil word. This has got to do with the reality on the ground. We are working with taxpayers' money, this is government money, and we must be careful in what we are doing. This is part of our oversight role, and this is part of the way we must go. This monies can easily be applied for other services in the municipality. But I am going to be graceful to you today, Mr. Mayor. You have a lot on you at the moment, and I'm going to ask you, let the officials advise you, let them give you a proper business plan and the financial plan for the 20 years, because they can work it out. In terms of the interest rates for a projected period, they can exactly work it out to the cent, and then so that we can understand as councillors. I thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to bother you any further. Thank you.
Councillor Lechaba.
Thank you, Speaker. I think I'm also having the same sentiment as Alderman, because I think what is important where we are now, we need to have a two-pronged approach about this. One, where we see ourselves that we have a proper financial feasible analysis of what this project is going to cost us, and also the profits or whatever that it entails in terms of finance. We need to see that, a clear one. Two, in case that the B municipalities do not come on board, how are we going to be able to service this? Because we must make that room, because we can see that we are having problems already. But if we're gonna just go and say we're taking that loan and then we see what, I think it will make us not to have a foresight. We've got to have a foresight to say, this is the feasibility analysis financially about this project, and therefore we understand, so that we can take everybody on board with numbers and everything. And then I think from there, it will take a lot of all the fears and the, and the assumptions and everything. I think if we can start from there, Mayor, I think it will be a good way for us to to proceed.
Madam Speaker, I'm happy with that, and I'm also confident that that isn't actually any way how it will unfold, you know, yes, we should get it.
Councillors, thank you. There's a,
Speaker, outstanding answer for my question.
okay. And Willem?
Thank you, Speaker. Councillor Fish, your question was relating to slow procurement processes and why the money hasn't been spent. I think important to note that 30% of the budget is linked to the transfer of property from George Terminus to Garden Route for the new fire station. So it is for accounting reasons that is included on our capital budget, but that process just has not been concluded. So there isn't any procurement process associated with that project. And if that was to be successful, which we anticipate it to be, that will be 30% of the capital budget spent for accounting reasons. I'm looking at the rest of the large projects. The landfill site again is also still 2.5 million rand or 3 million rand that is to be spent. That procurement process will now has been concluded. So I think the only project I see here which the procurement process hasn't been concluded yet at the end of Q3 was a project that was added quite late, that came out of the parliament burning and the OHS assessment. So there was then an additional 500,000 rand added to the budget for smoke detectors at the head office. So that is the only procurement that hadn't been concluded towards the end of March, and it was only because it was added in February only. But the rest of the procurements are in progress, and looking at the outstanding amounts, I can't see any risk of this capital budget not being spent, or at least reaching the target of 90% spent as per the SDP.
Any other questions before we go to the recommendations that are on page 220? It says there in point number 5 that council notes the quarterly report. We note that, councillors. Maya?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. On section C, there's no reports from the office of the councillors. We will now break for lunch. Can we please be back by 2:20, 20 minutes past the hour? Julle moet nou net sluk en terugkom. Meyer? And we've still got an in-committee item. I hope all of you have received it. After we close for the open agenda, then I will allow parties to go on a 10 to 20-minute caucus break, and then after that we will resume. If you haven't received it, just inform us. No, I will allow that if it needs be. Nobody has asked Councillor De Vries. Meyer? who are joining us online, we will start the meeting again now. Can I just see if they are still with us, Rihanna? Councillor Skippers, Councillor Hector, Councillor Letts. Are you still with us? Can you just give us an indication?
I'm with you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Skippers. Councillor Hector. Thank you, Councillor Letts.
I'm with you, Speaker.
Thank you. Who else? Who did I miss? Is that all? Thank you.
I'm also here, Madam Speaker.
Dankie. I see Councillor Chengo has also joined us. Welcome, Councillor. So we will proceed now. We will start with section D. Just for administrative purposes, Rihanna, if you can recall, Councillor Alderman Gierke asked if he can be excused at lunchtime, and then Councillor Cronje also asked if he can be excused at 3:30 if we're not done, as well as Councillor Tauti. Section D was reports from the Financial Services Department, and it starts on page 285. I think there's just a typo. Page 285, it must be March and not February. If you go to page 285, you will see there. In our index, it's speaking about the period 1st of February 2022, but the actual report says it's 1st March. So that is just a typo in the index pages. Councillors, any questions? On the deviation report, D1. Thank you. Before we take note, I've got a clarity seeking question, and maybe it's very easy to answer. But on page 289, I just want to ask on page 289 as well as page 290, we've said that GRDM telecommunications contract is with Telkom Mobile, but Telkom outsourced the repair of the device to Bradian. That happened twice. So can it just be explained? Is it not part of the specs of Telkom, or why are we are paying Telkom, but we are still outsourcing? I just need to understand, because it's 2,400 and the other one is 4,400. I see you raise your hand, Jan Willem.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, the reason for that is that our cell phone contracts we have via a contract with Telkom. That contract states then that if there's any work that needs to be done for repairs on the cell phone, we must submit it to Telkom, and they will then assess it and repair it. But what they then do is they give it to a company called Bradian Logistics, and then Bradian invoices us. So we repeatedly asked Telkom that they invoice Telkom so that we can then pay Telkom, which would then mean there isn't a deviation because we've got a contract with Telkom. But we haven't been able to finalize that or get Telkom to agree to that arrangement. But I think between Trix and myself, we'll just take it up again to see that we pay Telkom, who can then pay their own service providers, because currently we just get the invoices directly from Bradian, which we then say we weren't able to go out on a procurement because Telkom, who we have a contract with, have given the transaction to Bradian Logistics.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. I now understand. Chairperson Parker.
Ek wil nou nie soos 'n vasgehakte grammofoon plaat, thank you, but just again, that's also why we asked in the previous council meeting that we should go to these specific suppliers, as we found out when we signed the contract that it will be outsourced, so that we can see if we cannot get these agencies on our procurement list. Thank you, Speaker.
Councillors, any other questions on the deviation report? We've got a recommendation on page 285, 5.1 that it be noted. But then in 2, it says also that it be noted in terms of section 114 of the MFMA, and there was no approval of tenders not recommended in the normal course of implementing supply chain management policy of a municipality. Councillors, can we go with that? In the absence of any questions,
I will propose, Madam Speaker.
thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lambertine.
Madam Speaker, I will second the proposal. Thank you.
We proceed to section E, that is a report from the Corporate Services Department, E1. It's a terms of reference for the Education, Training and Development Committee. Alderman De Vries.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm just responding to the training development. This terms of reference for a specific purpose. Council, when we appointed members of the councillors for the Training Development Committee, have in fact increased the number of councillors on the committee, and the committee must be 50-50. So the change here is only to increase the representative of Sambu to 3 and the representative of Imatu to 3. So we will then six in terms of the employer and labor. So while we're discussing other changes in terms of reference, they will come later, but for now, because the members have already joined the first meeting, so we just want to make it that they actually is part of the terms of reference. Just another thing that while I have the floor, that the HODF reminded me, just to inform council, there will be a report in the next council meeting that we signed. The WSP was the day before yesterday, in fact yesterday. So signed, so that will be forwarded or submitted to the local government sector. Thank you.
Thank you, chairperson of that committee. So on page 297, the frequency of meetings, was that also, because that is also highlighted. Okay, so it stays like that. Because it says they're meeting at least bi-monthly, but just because it's highlighted, I was under the impression that it was an amendment.
Just a clarification in terms of where there was things that were not clarified.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So can we go with the recommendation on page 291? It's for approval. Can I get a proposal and a second, please? Thank you, Alderman. Second? Second. Thank you, Alder Lady. E2, report on the municipal staff regulations, 20 September 2022. It starts on page 299 up to page 363. Councillor Kritzinger.
Thank you, Speaker. This is just a report to basically to inform council and keep you up to date as to where we are about as far as the new staff regulations that has to be implemented on the 1st of July. And it just gives us a report on what has been done, and only the most important, basically, what we are doing. But it's also very important that council will have to take note that we are going to sort of workshop and revise some of our, or majority of our labor relations and staff policies, which are affected by the staff regulations. I don't think we will be 100%, or none of the municipalities, not one of the 287, if you ask me, will comply by the 1st of July 100%. But we are looking at the most important issues at the moment, and we will give you regular updates regarding the progress made with this regulation. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be done or needs to be said or wants to know. Thank you. So I want to just recommend that we note this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the report? Any questions? If yes.
Sorry, Speaker, just before I second the proposal, the date on page 4 should actually read 20 September 2021. And if I can just also, refer back to the previous item D1, on page 4, it should be the period 1 March 2022 to 31 March 2022. Thank you.
I did make that correction.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So are you also seconding then E2? Hello? Thank you. Thank you. Section F, this is a report from the Community Services Department. F1 is a report on the role of Garden Route District air quality on the Roykat recycling project and the current status of the project. It's from page 364 to page 370. Councillor Ndai.
Speaker, I would love to go with the recommendation, but before, maybe if there's no one for the question, I'd love the management, Mr. Johan, maybe he can, we do have on page 70, the 6.8.3, the recommendation that we must take note, and then maybe there will be some other councillors that maybe can be confused about that. Although we dealt with the question that I asked from the maker, I'd like him also to give the explanation to all the councillors so that they can be on the same pole with us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You may proceed, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Councillors, I just want to inform you that we received this application for the Rekat recycling project in Mossel Bay. I think the questions from the public was that they say we didn't follow due public participation processes, but we did. We did actually more than what the legislation required. It will be located on an industrial zone 3, which is the appropriate zoning for such a depolymerization plant. And I just want to say that what it is not burning of anything. It's a depolymerization process, which is a pyrolysis process, where the internal combustion gases are used as a fuel. So the emissions.
Sorry for the interruption. Now you see that hy groot woorde wat jy nou gebruik het. Aren't there other words to describe what that means?
It's actually a process where the heat that are used to actually break down the plastic that they're going to incinerate, not incinerate, which they're going to process for a fuel, are being internally used as the source of fuel for that process. So that's more or less. I'm sorry, I can't explain it. Simpler than that. But anyway, we had public meetings. We had meetings with the Mossel Bay Council about the project. It was actually also on News 24. We had an interview with them. We also addressed concerns from the public protector, and we also addressed concerns from the Great Rock River Ratepayers Association. And we'll also just issue a provisional atmospheric emission license. We will not issue a full license in the beginning. They must first show compliance with the conditions in the license before we will issue a final license. And there will be a continuous emission monitoring system. So we will be able to monitor the emissions 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, and if they're not in compliance, we will not issue them with a final license. So we will monitor them very strictly. And that's about it. I think there was just one question raised previously about the financial implications. There's no financial implications for Garden Route at the moment. But if there's a court case, in the possible court case, we can't predict if there will be, then it could be a financial implication to the council. But we will deal with that when it's on the table. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Maya, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, just to add on what Doctor just omitted to mention is that in Mako, we've also decided, because we are always cited, when people deal with environmental issues, etc. And even in this case, we had a role to play in terms of making sure that everything is according to plan. So when everything is fine, and what's the word? Sorry, I'm full now, I can't think. But we've decided that Mossel Bay as well as the Garden Route must have a joint press release, so that people can know up front. But the timing depends on you guys, Doc. We're not going to dictate the time. You guys would know, like, when would it be the perfect time that Mossel Bay and Garden Route inform the public, like, what is happening regarding this plant. Thank you.
Any other questions? If there are none, we've got the recommendation on page 365 that we take note. Can we take note, councillors?
Yes, Speaker.
Thank you. F2, that's a status quo report with regard to the District COVID-19 Command Center and the way forward due to the lapse of the national state of disaster. Through you, MM Bouter. Councillors, we normally get a presentation from Gerard, but I've asked Wouter that he must just give us a high-level briefing of what is currently happening on F2 as well as on F3.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to give some feedback as this report was done due to a due date, and the actual figures on this report is not current. I'd like to give you some feedback with regards to the active cases within the district. On the 14th of March, the active cases stood on 404, and then a week later, it stood on 370. On the 29th of March, it stood on 310. On the 6th of April, it stood on 276. So you can see there was a very good decrease in active cases. Then it still dropped on the 9th of April to 237. And then last week, Wednesday, it also dropped or decreased to 191. But then, as I reported on Monday morning to the Mancom, we are not in that bracket of decreased or increased numbers. Unfortunately, at that stage, I did not have the latest figures, but the garden route has actually increased. On the 25th of April, and that's the latest figures we received, we are now standing on 285 active cases. So the active cases has decreased over the past month. And as some of the provinces has already shown increase in active cases, the presumption is that we're on our way for a fifth wave. And with the winter coming, then we are expected to be in the fifth wave. Some other countries are already in a fifth wave, but the predictions are that due to the herd immunity, and now that's due to immunizations and self-acquired immunization, people that had previously had COVID, the fifth wave will not be as severe as the previous waves. I can give you some figures on the vaccinations. The latest available data that was on the 24th of April on the Johnson & Johnson program, the total evacuations stood on 76,442. The Pfizer first dose stood on 175,215, and the total people with at least one dose stands on 250,938. Looking at the populations, the total percentage of population over 50 years fully vaccinated stands on 70.0%. That gives us that exceptional herd immunity. The total percentage of population 18 to 49 years partially vaccinated stands on 50.4%. That's with regards to COVID-19. I'd also like to give you some feedback with two possible other threats to the garden route district municipality. The first one is the shot-hole borer beetle. This was identified in South Africa in 2017. It has since been found in all provinces except Limpopo. This makes an invasion in South Africa the largest geographical outbreak of this beetle in the world. The epicenter of this invasion is in Gauteng. So what does the shot-hole borer do? It's a 2 millimeter ambrosia beetle, and it tunnels into trees. It lines the tunnels with fungus, which grows to provide a food source for the beetle and its larvae. The beetle does not eat the wood. The tunneling kills the vascular tissue of the tree, causing branches to die back, and in many cases the tree will die. The problem in South Africa is that this borer beetle have infested more than 133 species. They are killing thousands of urban trees, cause dieback in susceptible trees, and it poses a threat to agricultural trees.
pose a threat to indigenous forests, and it spread easily to infested firewood. So people make firewood out of the tree. Unknowingly, they spread this beetle. How do we treat these infested wood? Preferably treat the cut wood on site in one of the following ways. Sorry, I'm reading out now. We chip the wood, and if possible, to a finer chip than 5 centimeters, and allow the chips to compose by keeping them in a heap wet, keeping the heap wet, or burn the wood on site if fire is permitted in the area where you live. Some beetles will fly away when the wood becomes hot, and when smoke appears. So do not burn wood in an unfested area. Or solarize, they leave them in the sun. The chopped wood under a thoroughly sealed clear plastic sheet for at least 1 month in the summer or several months during the winter. So they die in these sealed heaps. If the wood has been removed from the property, dump the wood at a dedicated dumping site. This is only a post-threat, and there are precautionary measures being taken. I can give you some names, but I'll circulate this presentation so that you can see which wood species are, tree species are infected. Just to name one, it's an alien species in South Africa, but the normal avocado tree is one of them. So all the avocado lovers, that's one of them, and then black bottle is also one. The other post-threat that I know that has been discussed is the brown locust. Currently, there's been training been given to DLOs, that's called District Locust Officer. That was done on the 23rd of March at the Hook, and 63 people in our area were trained to spray these locusts. We have received pesticides, and that is now stored in strategically placed in certain parts of our district. The brown locust moved from the Northern Cape into our area, and they were on the Swartberg Mountains, and then they moved over to the Eastern Cape, and they were out of our region. But then on the 22nd of April, a few days ago, they came back and are now, struggling to find the name now, at Kombuisplaas in the Schoemanshoek area. Unfortunately, they're not reachable by these DLOs, these district local officers. They're too high in the mountains. So those people are equipped and trained. As soon as they are sprayable, they will be dealt with. That's in a nutshell for me.
Wouter, thank you. I don't know if did you tell us about the way forward due to the lapse of the national state of disaster on the COVID issue? F2.
Madam Speaker, I haven't got the agenda in front of me, so I need to see on the screen.
Okay. Yes, okay, thank you.
Just maybe from a municipal health point of view, the way forward specifically, it is mentioned in the report. There's a draft legislation promulgated by the Department of Health. So it's now for comments. The district municipality provide their comments through the National Department of Health at this period of time. We also, the responsibility of the enforcement of those legislations is specifically for municipal health services, and that's an additional burden to us as a district municipality, or for the future, specifically for this function. It's only for the district municipalities and specifically for the metropoles. Part of that, the ports enforcement in the ports of the countries will be done by the National Department of Health. So at this period of time, it's not promulgated yet, but in future it will be promulgated and we will be part and parcel of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? If there are none, then can we take note of the report? The one is on page 372 and the other one is on page 381.
Yes, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillors, we're proceeding to section G. That is the report from the Roads and Transport Planning Services Department, G1.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Most of you, I think, have read through this and you've seen all the photos that was published, and I think it's very smart being availing that photos to us. I just want to then, I am at environmental reporting on DR 1263, 1297, that's in Slangrivier, 331 Jongensfontein, and MR 355 Madiba Road. I want to propose.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There you can see the photos. On the screen, any questions? If there are none, I think on page 400, Councillor Joviet, you were talking about Slangrivier, about the spelling. There's just a spelling mistake. You may proceed. I don't know whose mic. Can you switch off your mic? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Yeah, page 400, the fifth line. Slangrivier is 2 words. It must be 1 word. Yeah, and then the other correction or the spelling is on 400 and in the same report on page 430. The 9th line, and it must read after hours and not after hours. And then I will second it for that correction.
Thank you. Thank you for all the linguistic people that we've got in the house. We will correct that. Yes.
Can we assist because the one was saying Slangrivier, the other one was saying Slangrivier. So can the councillor just explain to us which one is it?
Councillor De Vries. Asli van Slangrivier said it must be Slangrivier, not Slangrivier. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Councillors, with that, can we note the report on page 390?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll
G2.
G2, report on 2022-23 fencing subsidy. Application period, that's from now onwards. I just thought of something. When someone received this subsidy to rectify his fences along the road, and we cannot put it in today, but I want to put it into your minds for the future. That when someone, a farmer or owner, receive this subsidy, that we put a burden on the old material, that it come back to the garden route. You know that we're not obliged to give away something else, except for selling it at the stock fair, at the auction. But then when I want this thing to be connected to our policy that says this material must go to the poorer or the small farmers. They cannot afford erecting fences, and that we can help them on that equation. So I want to propose. Except for this, what I've said now, we will look up to on that on our next occasion, but I just want to lay it into it. I propose, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor De Blanche. Any questions? If there are none, then we've got to take note on page 416 in our recommendation. So can we take note of it? Councillors, thank you.
Madam Speaker, then
G3.
Process report on Madiba Road. We've touched on it and on the photos we see. So, and I want to propose it.
Questions, councillors? Nothing? Can we take note on page 422? Thank you. Councillor, section H, H1, there is no report. Section I, there is nothing. Section J, there is nothing. Section K, there is nothing. So councillors, if there are no questions or nothing, Councillor Tauti, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Speaker, sorry. Just on that item on Slangrivier. What was said there is 100% correct. When you say still by in Afrikaans, it's one word. When you say still by, it's two words. When you say Slangrivier in Afrikaans, it's one word. When you say Slang River, it's two words. The person who typed it was 100% correct.
Oh, the semantics, the semantics. Thank
No,
you.
Councillor Tauti, one word.
We're not going to have a debate about Slangrivier and Stilbay and whatsoever. Councillors, thank you very much for your participation. The open part of the agenda is now adjourned. Councillors, we still got an in-committee item. I see the MM is already going without us even asking him to excuse himself. The MM het net so goedjies gevat en hy loop. So councillors, we are done with the open part of our agenda. Councillors online, please stay online. Don't exit. We will only remove the people that are not supposed to be in the meeting. So at this stage, MM, thank you. Thank you very much, MM, for the first meeting. So councillors, do you need a break of maybe 15 minutes until 3:15 or not? Julle is nog baie remoerig, dankie. Who's still in the meeting? Funekaya and Trix. Who's going to stay behind? Somebody needs to stay behind. Trix, please stay behind. I'm sorry, but jy moet maar bly man asseblief. Rihanna, you were saying? And Bonnie. We're just waiting for Karen Ann and for Tando. Jy sien, dis hoekom ek maar myne ophou. Ja. Okay, councillors, thank you. On the screen. Wat gebeur nou daar? It shows the live.